All right, good evening, everyone. We have a full chamber this evening. I'd like to call you and welcome you this evening to the Monday, April 20th, 2026 meeting of the Measure U Community Advisory Commission. The meeting is now called to order. Will you please, clerk, establish quorum for this meeting?
Thank you, Chair. Members, please unmute your microphones. Member Smith?
Here.
Member Sala? Here. Member Cook?
Here.
Member Miller is absent. Member Johnston?
Here.
Member Ruiz Benitez?
Here.
Member Noveo?
Here.
Member Jarofsky?
Here.
Member Pascal?
Here.
Member Fry Lucas?
Here.
Member Rosa is absent. Chair Georgioff is absent, and Vice Chair McGee.
Present.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to remind everyone, members of the public in chambers this evening with us, that if you'd like to speak on an agenda item, please turn in your speaker slip before the item begins. Once the item is called, we'll no longer be accepting speaker slips. You have 2 minutes to speak once you are called in. We'll now proceed with today's agenda. I'd like to ask if Commissioner Smith would lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance and land acknowledgement.
Please rise for the opening of land acknowledgements, in honor of Sacramento's indigenous people and tribal lands. To the original people of this land, the Nisenan people, the Southern Maidu, Valley and Plains Miwok, Patwin peoples, and the people of the Wilton Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe. May we acknowledge and honor the native people who came before us and still walk beside us today on these ancestral lands, by choosing to gather together today in the active practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's indigenous peoples, history, contributions, and lives. Thank you. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Smith. We have a great occasion this evening. We are welcoming a new commissioner. So we are going to give the commissioner a warm welcome and a few moments to share anything. So we're welcoming to Measure U Commission, Jose Bernardo Ruiz Benitez. And so take a moment to introduce yourself.
Happy to. Thank you, and hello, everyone. And also thank you for the warm welcome. As soon as I got in a little late. Jose Ruiz Benitez, lifelong resident of District 8, that's represented by Councilmember Maivang, right on Meadowview. Had the now opportunity to work at the state level, both as a fellow with the senator from the Central Valley and now from an assembly member over in South Central LA. Not quite South Sac for me, but the issues are still the same. So honored to be here, first of all, and thank you to everyone here.
Once again, welcome. All right, next we're going to move to approval of the consent calendar. Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to speak on the consent calendar?
Thank you, Chair. I have no speaker slips for the consent calendar.
Okay. Is there a motion and a second for the consent calendar? Or do we have any commissioners that wish to speak on that as well? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion and a second for the consent calendar? Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you so much for that. And so we have a motion by Commissioner Sala and a second by Commissioner Noveo. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, the motion passes. We will now proceed with the discussion calendar. Ooh. All right, and so with that, we're going to be having Brian Pedro, Director of the Department of Community Response.
right. Good evening, Chair and Commission. Brian Pedro, Director of the Department of Community Response. And we'll make it worth your while and as painless as we can this evening. All right, a little background on where I came from. I was with the fire department for 27 years. During that time, I also worked as a registered nurse, and I was also in the military, which I retired this last year as a lieutenant colonel. And so I've been very busy. And that brought me to this job, which is keeping me as busy as those 3 jobs kept me in the past. This is our mission statement. I think it's very accurate to what we do every day. So the mission of our department is to provide compassionate and individualized support to people experiencing homelessness with the goal of aiding them on their path toward recovery, wellness, and sufficiency. I think this is exactly what we do every day and continue to do. Our department is structured with the Office of the Director and then 2 divisions, the Community Outreach Division, which is our outreach workers that are out in the field every day making connections and meeting people where they are. And then we also have our Homeless Services Division, which is all of our shelter contracts and shelter management. We have 38 FTEs, and out of those 38 FTEs, we've offset some of the funding from opioid settlement funding, 2 positions, and also almost another 2 positions for, there's HAP funding administration that we can bill back and recoup some of that. So there's about $400,000 in HAP and opioid that supplements our budget. Here's a breakdown of our overall budget. So DCR's operating costs, it's about 17 million as a base, with almost 6 million in operating, and then the other 11.5 is for projects. And so that's our base. And then on the project side, we get an additional 22.2 million from Measure U. So that brings our project funding up to the 33.7. And then the offsets of HAP 6, which is 12.9, and then we carried over 1.6 million from our previous year's savings to give us that 14.5, which gives us a total of 54.1 million for this year. What I will note is that as our HAP shrinks year after year, which seems to be the trend right now, we're increasing our Measure U need. And so what I am trying to do is offset that by any means that we can. We do have encampment resolution funding grants that we applied for and received, which helps extend our funding. And then this year we were one of the first cities that applied for, I'd say one of the only cities that applied for CalAIM reimbursement. So Medi-Cal reimbursement for services they would provide. We just started that within the last couple of weeks, so that will help offset some of our costs as well. This is what the calendar year 2025 looked like. We had 1,614 shelter beds, served 4,457 people, and 41% to improved exits. So improved exits is anything that is in a better situation than where they currently are. So that can be back home, rejoining them with family, or to permanent housing. And calendar year 2025, we had 825 people that went to permanent housing. Our city-funded shelters, we have our congregate shelters, our non-congregate, our transitional aged youth, our TAY shelters, women and family. There's also some DV in that. We have our respite center, which is our 23-hour overnight, which we also use for weather respite. And then we have our city motel program. So I'd be remiss to not mention our incident management team, which does have team members and some of our Measure U funding going towards cleanup, and the DCR staff that is also part of the incident management team. We had, these are the calls that come in through 311, any homeless-related calls. We had 37,000 calls for service that we received and closed. Removed 6 million pounds of garbage from our streets, and achieved 9,459 compliances, and most of that is voluntary. There is also some involuntary compliance that goes along with that. This is just part of that balance of our dual mandate of trying to help as many people as we can, but also providing enforcement to our ordinances and keeping our businesses viable, and trying to reduce our impacts overall in the city. So we're not simply one-sided on this. We're working together to try and keep this balance for everybody. So some of the things that we're doing this year is our Roseville Road campus. We did receive an encampment resolution fund grant for this project, expanding it out. We purchased 135 homes. We were also able to negotiate the price of the tiny homes, which allowed us to purchase another 35. The additional 35 will be in place this summer. We have 135 at the site right now. That'll be 170, plus we already have 100 on the property now. So this significantly expanded. I will tell you that those 135 that went in February were filled 2 weeks ago. We had them completely full. So the idea that people don't want shelter or don't want to come inside, I can tell you that if we had the 35 that we put in there this summer will be filled up in 2 weeks or less. People want to go inside. We also, OID took the lead on this, but we were in conjunction with another Encampment Resolution Fund grant, which was a street to housing program. This was literally taking people from the street into apartments and getting them leased out. That program was, we're a year into it. There's 102 apartments that's serving 127 people. And so that is another 100 people, 127 people that we were able to get off the street with this program. And it's, as of this point, we're 91% of the people that we originally put in the program are still in the program. So it's been very successful to this point. What else we have this year is safe camping. Safe camping is that baseline safe place for somebody to camp and have a bathroom, have a shower, and have a safe place to sleep at night. This is our least expensive that we can put up, and we put this up in the River District. It should be fully operational hopefully in May. And this is for 100 city-provided tents, again with bathrooms, showers, and security, bringing people in, as many people as we can to get it off the River District. And what we want to try and do is use this as our continuum. So if we can get someone off the street into safe camping, then we can get them stabilized and get them into one of our shelters and try and get them from our shelters into permanent housing. So this, I look at this as one of the many things that we need to have something available to anybody, depending on where you are on your journey of trying to get out of homelessness. So again, I'm excited that we're getting this up and going. And then we have our micro-communities, which has been discussed. If you haven't heard about this, there's been plenty of talk about it. So this is another lane that we've talked about in, we have many of our seniors that are in our emergency shelters, and they're sitting there only because they have nowhere that they can afford to go. This is that lane that we're trying to create. It's communities of up to 40 homes. They're a little bit bigger. The tiny homes that we have in our shelters are 70 square feet. These are 120 square feet. They'll have amenities, they'll have bathrooms, showers, laundry rooms, meals, transportation, be case managers on site, and then security monitoring on site 24/7. And so these projects are in the building department right now, reviewing plans, and I'm hoping that we'll break ground on one soon and get these up and going, because it is another area that we need for our whole continuum to transition people. We've been busy. We're also looking for a safe parking site, because there are plenty of people that are living in their cars or their RVs, and looking for a safe place for them to park at night as well, that has security, restrooms, shower availability, and again, some services available to support that and try and get them into housing or some better place that we can get them. So we have a couple of locations we're looking at. We don't have a contract signed, but I'm hoping that we'll find something real soon and get an agreement and get this moving forward. So funding on this, we have been very active in making sure that we're diligent with our funding and our budget. We had an $8.8 million savings this year through our contract negotiations. Out of that 8.8, we are using $6 million of that to cover our operations of our new safe camping, safe parking, and our micro communities. And then we have a $2.8 million in the budget to be projected to actually reduce the funding need for DCR. So with that approval, we'll be 2.8 less next year. Again, we applied for CalAIM and searching for revenues. We were awarded a site grant, and that was $168,000 to actually help the program. So we're not coming out of pocket to get this program up and going, because there's a significant lift, administrative lift, to get the program going. And lastly, I'll leave this, Tom Mitchell. We've known Tom for a long time. He actually got permanent housing last week, and he has had a long journey, and I think the significance of this is the long journey of from beginning to actually getting to permanent housing is not as, I don't know that anybody thinks it's easy, but I don't think that people realize how difficult it is. And so Tom had a long 2-year journey, actually went to his brother's and wasn't working out there, so he came back to our shelter and we gave it another try, and like I said, last week we got him into permanent housing, so that's why we're out here. And didn't want to make this too long and drawn out, and kind of do a down dirty of where your money's going, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Brian, and the Department of Community Response. Clerk, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this?
Thank you, Chair. I do have one speaker slip, Mr. Lambert Davis.
First of all, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Cook. See, the last time I was at Measure U, Mr. Cook made a profound statement, and you're seeing the results of that tonight. The statement you made, which is true, because I went to a lot of Measure U meetings, and Measure U was not for what I'm hearing tonight. It was for the underserved community. But then when they combined it, then to me, it became what you would call peculiar. You don't want any peculiarity when it comes to finance. It's very simple to do. So shout out to you, because with your courage to make that kind of statement, I've never seen the audience as big of an attendance to measure you since I've been coming here. And I believe it's a direct of what you said and what I said right after what you said that brought this about. Now, this group I think they should be audited, because all of the money coming in and all of the people that are homeless, we're talking about 140 beds. That's 100, I don't know if that's 140 people or what, but it's off. And when I really look at it, I didn't even know they had opiate funding. You know, HHAP, to me, that almost tells me that some people don't want homeless to end. Because if it ended, they would not get HAP money. They wouldn't get opiate money. So, I mean, that's actually a recipe for contractors to do what's called bid rigging.
Thank you for your comments. Chair, I have no additional speakers on this item.
All right, are there any commissioners that wish to speak on this topic or item? All right, calling Commissioner Pascal.
Thank you. I have a few questions. First, I wanted to thank you. Last time you were here, you invited commissioners to ride along with you and see the work of DCR. And I will admit, I approached it with a lot of skepticism, but I learned a lot, and I saw the compassion that I didn't think I would see in terms of how your team approaches the job. And so I want to thank you for that opportunity. And if it's something that you is still on the table, I would really encourage other commissioners to do that. It really was eye-opening. I've also seen things in the community that I didn't feel like were so compassionate. Like, I was down here by Cesar Chavez Park, like right after Christmas. It was, 30 in the 30s, and I saw people's, like, those FEMA blankets that look like tinfoil to help people stay warm, getting swept into the trash with coats and tents and other things that were keeping people warm, and that was tough. So I just wanted to just express both sides of the coin. But in terms of questions, I have two questions I wanted to see if you could shed some light on. One is, what is the status right now? Like, you guys have done a lot of great stuff in recent years. What's the status right now of, like, how much shelter we have relative to the need? Like, have we made progress on getting the waiting list down? Like, or what's the big picture? Like, are we chipping away, and how much? And then secondly, like, where do you think is the best use of our dollars right now? If you had, if we could write a blank check, where would you put the money? Or if we could write a small check, where would we get the biggest bang for the buck?
That's a loaded question. So shelter beds, we have the 1,600. We will be over 2,000 when we get the rest of this built out. That's city capacity. Between us and the county, I think we'll be around the 3,000 mark. We did the pit count in January. We'll see where our pit comes out. There is a ratio of what you should have in emergency shelter beds, what you should have in rapid rehousing, permanent supportive, across a number, whatever your number of your count is in your city. And so we're getting close to the max number of emergency shelter beds that we should have. But I'll caveat that with the entire system has to work for that number to work. Like, if you have an emergency shelter system that will move people out and get them into interim housing, transitional housing, permanent housing, then that number works. If that system is slow because of availability, then obviously you'll need more capacity. So it's kind of a convoluted answer. None of these answers are, if someone's given you a direct answer, I can tell you that they haven't been doing this work, because there is no exact science to dealing with homelessness and every aspect that's related to it. And then where our money would be best spent. That is the challenge of what we're trying to figure out. And again, it goes back to every person has a specific need. And I'm not saying like we need to meet the thousands of individual needs of every person, but everybody falls into some need category, and trying to have something available is what we're trying to balance. That said, I would say probably services is where we need to focus. And the challenge is, and this is not calling out the county, this is actually probably being more transparent with it, is that behavioral health services, everybody says we need behavioral health services and we need substance services. Yes, we do. There are many people that have behavioral health concerns and substance use concerns. The challenge with that is we could have all the behavioral health clinicians in the world out and making those contacts, but if somebody does not want that service, then we don't have a mechanism to force you to take that service. And so that is a big, big challenge. We can have all the behavioral health we want, but if people aren't accepting the service, then what? And so I would say working on trying to shore up that gap. I mean, I could talk all night about where we should put our money. But here's what I will tell you, and this is something that I keep, foot stomping, is that we look at our 54 million of what we spent this year, and it seems like a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But when you start dividing it out amongst the number of people that we are helping, it is not that much money. And I'll give you an example of, we pulled some numbers. So dollars per homeless person for Sacramento, we're at $9,000 per person is what we're spending. San Jose is spending $33,000 per person. San Diego is spending $29,000 per person. Los Angeles is spending $20,000. And San Francisco is spending $101 per person. So we're way under what other cities are spending on their per person dollar. And our homeless budget, our 50 million, and I will add in another 10 because we have the ERF that we got, so that gives us a little more spending power. So our budget was saying 1.7 billion total budget and 60 million being spent. It's 3.5% of our budget. San Jose spending 3.5%, but their budget is 216 million. So San Diego spending 315 million. Los Angeles 950 million, and San Francisco 846 million. So what we're doing with our money and how we're keeping our homeless count where it is I think something to at least put in context of how we're spending our money. And I will tell you that I have combed through, and we will comb through again, all of our contracts and make sure that we are spending the more money that we can save, the more people that we can help with the fixed amount of funding, and that's the way I look at it. And like I said, 8.8 we saved this year. We saved that last year too. It's going back in to build out more capacity, and we will continue to make those dollars stretch as best we can. Thanks.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you. As you know, the city has projected that they're going to have a deficit, and I think the last number I heard was something in the order of 6-7%. And everything costs more these days. With a 2% inflation rate, that puts you at roughly a 9 to 10% deficit in terms of real dollars going to people. If you experienced realistically a 10% cut in your funding, which of these programs would remain viable? And if all of them are, how are we going to make the cut? Where does it make the most sense to make cuts?
Yeah. So on our budget proposal, our budget cut proposal was $3.2 million for our city motel program. Because I always like to project and look ahead and look at the future of not having funding. We had already started working on the city motel program 2 years ago, and that program was over $9 million for our families only. It's 200 rooms. It was over $9 million when we started a couple of years ago. Last year, we renegotiated our contracts, got it down to 7.8. We renegotiated again and got it down to 6.5. And then we restructured the program just recently. We'll start it in June, and it's a city motel voucher program. So even with the $3.2 million from that program that we projected for our budget cut, we can still keep that program at capacity by the way that we've restructured it. So that was one of the things that we looked at. The other one is X Street is also on our $6 million budget cut proposal. I think that there is room to, even with that give back for that, I think that I'm looking at ways that we can shift around and still keep capacity. So there will be a point where I can only lean us out so much and keep capacity. I think we're getting close to there. And then at that point, then it will be shutting down something.
Right.
And that is, that's a question to mayor, council, and how much they want to support.
Right. But effectively, all the programs would still function.
As of
With a 10, gotcha.
right
Okay.
now, we're going to be functional.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Sala?
Yes, thank you for the presentation, and it was very informative. And I just want to say, a few years ago, the city consolidated the efforts into your office of community response, because before it was very siloed, and I think it was costing the city a lot more in resources to do it that way. And so the consolidation, because I've seen it over a couple of years, has effectively reduced the kind of money that's being spent and increased. And I'll go just speak to District 3 in my community, which mainly I live off of Northgate and Garden Land. And a year ago, I would say we had a real problem with homelessness on the streets, the garbage. There was a lot of issues, and your office has done a phenomenal job in cleaning it up. So much so that you don't see it on Northgate anymore, even in Garden Land. So Garden Land, if you go back against the levee, that has been cleaned up quite a bit, because if I go to Garden Land Park, I don't see what I used to see with the garbage, the homelessness. And the community generally is very pleased. I mean, there's work to be done, no doubt, but it's made an improvement. Even under the bridge coming here on 16th, because I go from Northgate and I travel down, 12th. it was so great to see last week it being cleaned up. It was really, really sad to see it so much garbage and homeless there, because it's right next to this beautiful mural that unfortunately has been damaged. But it's cleaned up, and so those little glimmers of hope it's still far from solving the problem, because the homeless problems didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight, and it's complex. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing to address it and the city's doing to address it. It is a costly endeavor, and if we don't want, and it has to be a comprehensive approach. So I have two questions. One is, I really, a council member a couple of years ago kept saying, and I think we brought it up last year, is the longer someone is homeless, the more costly it is to get them lifted up, stabilized, and into ultimate permanent housing. It's very difficult. So after a year, the need becomes greater when they're homeless. So prevention is key, is not key, is one of the tools that we really need to focus on, is how do we prevent individuals from being homeless, because we'll save money. And then how do you identify someone who's been homeless, like recently homeless, and intervene with those individuals? Because again, the longer they're homeless, the more the need has increased. That is one. And then the other one is, I know you mentioned that the county's responsible for behavioral health because they get all that behavioral health money. How do you work with the county and get the resources to provide in these shelters and temporary shelters, permanent shelters, to address, and mainly it's the mental health is I think mental health and substance abuse go hand in hand. So how do you get the county to step up? Do you have county working with you? They give you, how do the resources come from the county to help support what you're trying to do? It's not linear and trying to separate, well, we only do this part and the county only does that part. Can't be that way, because it's never going to work. So I'm just interested in how that works.
So both really good questions. The prevention piece, we have always had a prevention program. It originally started with some definition that wasn't reactive enough to catch people, or you're catching them so late that they're falling into homelessness. We have $2 million of HAP that we're putting out of the city funding towards prevention, along with all the other funding that's in prevention from the COC's funding. And so we're really digging into prevention this year. We have had a lot of success with it thus far, and it's looking at, there are a lot of factors, because with prevention, unless it's very targeted, then it's just supplemental income to help somebody stay in their home. It has to be targeted. You have to look at who is not likely to fall in homelessness, but is going to fall into homelessness. Otherwise, your prevention dollars will get sucked up quickly just trying to support everybody. So it's a very targeted group. There's been so many studies to determine what that looks like. There is, one way is to look at who's already using a lot of social services. If they're on CalFresh and they're using a lot of social services, then their likelihood of needing services to stay housed are higher. And also any interventions with the court system, jail, more likely that they're going to fall into homelessness. And those are just two of the many categories. But we have a pretty robust program right now, but we're digging into it even more to look at trying to help more people quicker, further upstream, but not so far upstream that you're spending money on people that aren't necessarily going to fall into homelessness. And that's the challenge. That's the balance on prevention. Behavioral health. So we have a city-county partnership. We're 3 years into a 5-year city-county partnership. And within that partnership, we have behavioral health clinicians that are assigned to the city. We have them in, originally they started with clinicians in the outreach setting and trying to provide behavioral health services in an outreach setting is, as you can imagine, challenging. And so we shifted them into our shelters. And so we have clinicians in our shelters, and they've been just in looking at it over the last 6 months of data, because we did it a little over 6 months ago, but now we've looked back for 6 months. And that shift in itself has been significant in making engagements and referrals. The challenge with it is we can find the individuals, we can get them to accept to go into a program, we can make the referral, and then that's what we can see on our end as a city, the visibility of making those referrals to behavioral health. And then once they're referred, then they're on the county side with the behavioral health services, and that's the visibility that we don't clearly have. And they do report out on their behavioral health services with our city-county partnership agreement, but that is just in that scope of city-county partnership. So that's the visibility that we don't have, and part of it is the system itself. Once you get into treating somebody, there is a certain amount of HIPAA involved in that, and personal information on the treatment side that can't just be liberally shared with everybody.
Okay, I just have a follow-up to do you work, because CBOs, they're the front line, and they, a lot of times, they serve those communities or individuals that they become aware of. If something's not done, this person's going to be homeless. How do you interface with CBOs that, and I know for Stanford Settlement, oftentimes I'm hearing them say there's an individual or families that they need support, and if not, they're going to be homeless. How do you interface with the CBOs?
Well, as far as, and this is the challenge of what we're trying to do with the whole 211 system is that we aren't getting requests from everybody. And so getting them into the 211 system and doing an assessment as they come in is the best way that we have currently to try and sort out the needs of everybody that we have that needs support and determine if this person because there's no shortage of people finding people that are going to fall into homelessness or are in homeless. Most of the times they're already in the system, and we're already seeing them and down the road on some program. So really, I mean, 211, of course, they can always reach out to us, and they do. We get phone calls from the back line, so to speak. But yeah, we're open to anybody contacting.
Thank you.
Just a quick time check for commissioners. We do have 4 departments presenting at this meeting, so we're at kind of the 45-minute mark for the first department. If each department takes 45 minutes, that'll get us to the full 3 hours of the meeting, and obviously that would get in the way of your discussion on your budget recommendations. So I'll just leave that to you all as how you want to manage your time, but just wanted to make sure everyone was aware.
Additionally, we do have many public speaker slips as well.
Thank you for that gentle guidance. With that, Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Cook, for last item discussion.
About, in the beginning, I'm paraphrasing, the homeless population, biggest opportunity is offering shelter, treatment, placement, and it being declined. Do you have any data on outreach attempts and individuals who decline to seek help, treatment, shelter? If so, what is that data?
We do. I don't have it on me. I could send it to you. But we do track that. And the challenge with that is breaking out why they're declining. And there's a million reasons why someone would decline shelter. Some don't want congregate shelter. Many have more pets than we can take in our shelter. They have more storage than we allow in our shelters. So there's barriers to it, or the shelter's not in the location. If they became homeless and have family in the north end of town, they don't want a shelter in the south end, and vice versa. So we do have that data. I can send that to you. We have even broken that out over the last year and a half to ask more questions of the why of not accepting. And I'd be happy to send that to you.
I think the challenge is that addressing the homeless population is probably the largest issue within the city of Sacramento. I'm sure you see this, live it every single day. And there seems to be this idea that individuals are being offered treatment placement shelter, and it's being declined. And you see like the manifestation of this, like just homeless camps that continue to persist week after week, month after month, despite the repeated 3-in-1 attempts. Like you see it in Howe and Fair Oaks, you see it all across Art and Del Paso, you see it in Del Paso Heights, Northgate, Roseville Road, etc. So like I'm trying to reconcile this desire to meet these individuals where they are, while also acknowledging that it is not okay to camp in these public communities, while also acknowledging that there's a persistent budget deficit. How do you like think about all three of these categories together when determining who to reach out to? How do you serve these people? And is it even okay to let an individual who's offered treatment, placement, or shelter to decline that help to begin with? What are your thoughts?
These are the thoughts that run through my head all day, every day. There's, I can tell you that if we had capacity, there would be a lot more people off the streets. I can tell you that we are re-looking at how we determine how successful you are in the shelter. If you're coming into the shelter and, for lack of a better term, if you're in a shelter spot and you don't want to improve and you don't want to accept any services, then where's our cutoff point on that? Where we say, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to leave, and let's get someone else in that wants to help and move forward. So that's the challenge. On the other side of that, then you have the challenge of, if we continue to do that, then who's going to be left on our streets are most difficult, and what do we do with that group? So trying to help the many. We're in triage right now. As I look at it, as triage. As our budget gets tighter, we're going to have to deliver something different and figure out how we can help the most with what we have, and kind of leave our old way of thinking that we're offering to everybody, and you don't have to help guide your way.
So what is the department's current position on individuals who are being offered treatment and then it being declined? Like, the reason I'm asking these questions is that, like, I see through the city of Sacramento, people are submitting 3-in-1 tickets for homeless assistance, like homeless camp in my neighborhood, homeless camp in my park, et cetera, et cetera. You can see the 3-in-1 tickets. They're getting closed as complete. But when you look at the details, like, they're complete because the individual is declining help, and then the ticket is just getting marked as closed, which, you know, we can debate whether that's right or wrong. But the idea is, like, what is the city's current position on addressing this population? Because I think the challenge is that within Measure U specifically, homeless and homeless adjacent spending is now the largest category of spend. It's like $40 million out of $137 million every year, and we run a deficit every year, and it's because of homeless spending. So I guess my question, to reiterate to you, is what is the position now? Or maybe said more directly, if a person is offered treatment, shelter, support, and they decline it, what happens next?
With current laws and ordinances, there is nothing that happens next because that individual still has their rights as an individual in this country to make their decisions. If they're not breaking an ordinance, if they're not on private property, if they're not blocking a sidewalk, if they're not excessive storage, then they're a person that is in whatever location they are. If it's not a violation, then they have their freedom of choice to decide they're going to be. There is nothing short of 5150 involuntary enforcement because they can't take care of themselves that we can force somebody to take shelter.
Does that happen today?
Pardon?
If it does 5150 happen today?
Yes. Yeah. So we have some avenues for 5150s.
Okay, this is my last question. I realize we have a lot to cover. I think I'm trying to reconcile what's happening in the city of Sacramento versus what's happening in other cities in California. Even if you look in San Francisco, over the past 6 months, they've been able to dramatically or materially turn around their homeless population. They live in California, so I don't understand why other cities like San Jose, like San Francisco, we can go on, are able to more effectively manage the homeless population. But in the city of Sacramento, whenever we bring up this issue, the answer is always, well, there's nothing we can do. It seems like that answer doesn't make sense, and I can't reconcile that, given I see what's happening in other cities in California, and they're able to handle it, so why can't Sacramento?
So quickly, I can tell you that every time that we talk to any other city, they ask us what we're doing. So that is an outside view of looking at what that city is doing. When we have conversations with them, we call them for questions. They end up turning around and asking us what we're doing. And I will tell you, I'll go back to the reason San Jose and San Francisco are doing such a good job. San Francisco is spending $846 million on. If you gave me $846 million, you would not see somebody on the street here. We would be able to, by far, place everybody. So there is a budget component of this, and there's a perception component. And the point-in-time counts of populations for those cities and ours are almost identical. And like I said, we're spending 50, they're spending 850 million to end up with the same result.
I think they have a larger population, so if you look at it on a per-person basis, it's actually not the same, but I'll leave it there. Thank you for your questions, or your time.
I know, we got a lot to cover, but I could not, I'm trying to squelch myself in a box, and I just can't. So I'm asking this question as District 1 Commissioner, but more importantly, District 1 community member. I love District 1, specific to the micro-community that's coming to 3511 Del Paso Road Boulevard, which is right adjacent to my community, which is West Shore. In the presentation, it was presented as being done in 2027. I know there is some public discourse and actions going on in regards to that, so I'm trying to not be biased in asking this question, but what is the current state? Because as presented, it looks like it's 100% a go, and that it's going to be built, and that's it. But I know that there is a lot of community discourse and action happening. So I just want to kind of get an idea of, is it a go final or is it a projected? Because looking at the presentation, it looks like it's a very final and that we're just waiting for it to be built out and staffed and funded.
Another loaded question. Nothing is final, but we have all intentions of moving forward. There was a temporary restraining order that was placed from the community, some of the community members, and that was seen by a judge on last Friday, and it was denied. And we have we're waiting for environmental report. Once we get that completed, we have all of our other reports that we've done for the site. And then building will look at the design review again. It's been back and forth a few times. And once building puts their stamp on, they're good with the design. As far as me as a director on this project, that is our point to move forward. So unless somebody else tells me to stop, we're moving forward on that project.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Cook?
Follow-up question. On the presentation, it said that there were around 4,500 people sheltered in 2025. How many of those were exits to permanent housing, and how many were returned to homelessness within 6 to 12 months?
So permanent housing for calendar year was 825. And then I would have to get you the numbers of negative exits out of there.
So of the 4,500 people who were sheltered last year, 825 went to permanent housing, which means the other 3,200 are where?
Still sheltered or into positive. The 825 to permanent housing is just permanent housing.
Yeah.
There is still a large amount that were to improved locations, whether that be back to family or someplace other than shelter.
How many of those were homeless in 6 to 12 months? Do you track that?
It's a challenge to track it because we can track it, but it's when we see them back in the HMIS system for needing service again and contacting them back out in the streets. But we do track the people that fall back into homelessness.
5%, 20% of the population from the 4,500 people who were sheltered last year?
Oh, I'd have to pull numbers. It's way more dynamic than 4,500, 800 went. The shelters are continuously serving people. I'd have to get you numbers.
Okay, thanks.
All right, seeing no further comments from commissioners, we are moving forward. Thank you to you and the Department of Community Response. So moving on to item 4 on our discussion calendar, we are calling the Sacramento Police Department. Is there anyone present to present? Welcome, Chief.
Hi. Good to see everyone. Thank you. No, it's fine. I know you had lots of good questions, so I was observing from the back. Let me get my presentation ready here, and we'll get going. So good evening, everyone. I am Kathy Lester. I am your police chief. It's great to be here tonight, here to talk about Measure U funding and what we fund at the police department with that. So essentially, the Measure U authorization funds our hiring pipeline, which is our student trainees, our community service officers, and our Office of Violence Prevention. So a number of years ago, right about the time I started in 21, we actually incorporated the Office of Violence Prevention under the police department, which is a little bit unusual. In most cities, it's in the mayor's office or it's a standalone. But we have a really great relationship with Dr. Clavo, her team, and a lot of the community-based organizations that are here today. And I just did a presentation on our violent crime reductions over the past several years, and we've seen consistent year-to-year double-digit reductions, which I'm really, really proud of. So here are the finances. The total, actually, I should tell you who is joining us tonight. Obviously, Dr. Clavo. I also have Sang, who is lieutenant. He's filling in for Ethan Hansen, who is back at Cap to Cap. And then I've got Deputy Chief Bales, who will be your interim police chief in about 3 weeks. So I'm glad to have him here tonight. And in the back, we also have our finance team, Natalie and Brenda. So if there are questions about funding I can't answer, I brought in the A team. So right now, our hiring pipeline is about 61.5 FTE FTE, and under an OVP are 3 full-time FTE with a number of different programs that we fund for a total of $9.1 million. Our hiring pipeline, we've got 28 and a half student trainees. Those are part-time positions, so it's actually twice as many. We do have 23 community service officer twos, which is a program that we brought back in order to have really a pipeline so that we had people that were prepared for the police academy. It's been a great program for us, but you'll notice if you were here last year, we did see a reduction with last year's budget in the number of community service officers. We were actually authorized 46 last year, which is why and we've seen a reduction of about 50%, so 23 this year. And the community service officer 3, those are actually permanent career classification community service officers, and they're there to support patrol and our officers as a full-time non-sworn classification. And then of course in the Office of Violence Prevention, we have our special projects manager, we have an admin analyst and an admin technician for a total of 64 and a half FTE. Our hiring pipeline, really, the purpose of that is to recruit young people to come into the police department. We recruit from our criminal justice academies, our police cadet programs, our local colleges. We're about to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Law Enforcement College Scholars Program at Sac State, and certainly from our high schools, and to try and get them into law enforcement careers. I'm really proud of our diversity. I spoke about this last year when I was in front of you. Our student trainees are 94% diverse. Our community service officers are 83% diverse. And so when you're talking about diversity in public safety, our pipeline has been a great way to help diversify our department. And also very proud about the number of people in this pipeline that have transitioned to sworn positions. Last year, this number was 40. I'm proud to say it's 48 of our pipeline candidates and employees that have transitioned into sworn positions since 2019, and 16 to full-time professional staff. And professional staff are just as important. It's about 30% of our department, and while you usually see us in uniform, there's a whole machine of people behind the scenes working in support roles that are really important to what we do. For the Office of Violence Prevention, the 3 FTE are funded with about $493,000, and Dr. Nicole Clavo can answer any questions on this, but really OVP really oversees our Measure U funding and all of the awards to our community-based organizations. Primarily, we focus on community violence and prevention and youth gang involvement. And so we've got some great stats and work product from the last few years. One of our major programs is the GPIT program. This is the Gang Prevention and Intervention Task Force. It's funded at $1.4 million. And this is really to help support our community-based organizations that do a lot of work with our at-risk youth, which are very proven to have been disproportionately impacted by gang violence. Our partners are Academics for Athletes, Brother to Brother. I know I saw Merv here. Still here? Oh, is Merv still? Hi, there you are. Okay, I saw him in the back. Hawk, Reimagine, Mac Road, Rose Family Creative Empowerment Center, Sacramento Youth Center, the Victory Outreach South Sac. And they do things like mentoring, conflict resolution, youth engagement, tutoring, and what I think is really also important is career and workforce development. And we primarily serve Del Paso Heights, Fruit Ridge, Valley High, Meadowview, and Oak Park areas. We also, as part of our violent crime reduction efforts, stood up a 3-year grant program called the DRIP program. This is a $1 million per year program, and it was really to provide community-based organizations and their members and employees to do on-scene and follow-up disruption intervention, which is probably the most difficult thing that we do in regards to violence and prevention services on very focused individuals. Again, our partners in that are all in together. Brother to Brother, which is the one community-based organization that does both of those programs, helping our people eat, hope, self-awareness, and recovery. And if you've watched my violence, my violent crime strategy presentations, we talk about the disproportionate concentration of crime in 3 areas in Sacramento. When we first really ran that data back in 2022, we found that almost half of our shootings occurred in about 7 square miles of the city. And so we've got a lot of disproportionality on where crime occurs. But what we know is that it's concentrated in small geographic areas and often committed by a very small number of individuals. And so we've focused our efforts on those individuals and in those areas as part of our citywide reduction strategies. And I'll just give you some stats, really proud of this. Our Measure U GPIT grant, over 6,000 participants. They're youth, they're 10 to 24, almost 150,000 program service hours, and obviously very diverse. 76% are Black or Hispanic. And based on the surveys taken by participants, the information we received is that 91.6% do better in school, 91.2% make better choices, 90.8% feel like they're doing a better job staying safe, and 91% believe in a better future, and I think that's really important. Those things are really tough to measure. And then I'll get into DRIP. Essentially, they've been able to provide 33 critical incident responses. So, if we have something really critical in our community, we have, a violent event, whether it's a significant shooting, a homicide, we can request our partners to come out for an immediate response to provide support in the community, and they've done that 33 times over the last year. They also have helped us with disrupting potential violence, and we've made 80 referrals directly to those community-based organizations. So this is a smaller program, but 426 participants received one-on-one support. And then this is, and actually I know we've got YPSI with us, the Family and Youth Investments. This is $1.3 million, and it was actually eliminated and then restored for one-time funding last year, and I'm sure they can answer questions. But this is essentially the pop-up funding that provides for Sacktown Youth Nights program, which is just Fridays and Saturday nights. They provide events and activities in partnerships with our CBOs. Here's some stats that we received. This will be my last slide, just talking about youth and family investments. 1,700 events, over 13,000 participants, and 20 CBOs that were funded there. And just some great feedback and testimonials that we got from the participants. So, while our portion of the Measure U funding is small, we certainly try and make the most of it. Obviously, the DRIP program, that was really a 3-year, one-time program that will be ending in October. And then we received a really robust grant from BSCC on our prevention efforts, which at this time of budget needs and how difficult things are, could not have come at a better time. As you know, all of the departments had to propose a 15% reduction in our departments and the amount of funding that we have. And for the police department, over 90% of my costs go directly towards labor. We don't have a lot of other things. We pay for people, not a ton of programs. And so we've seen year-to-year reductions for the last 3 years. We did just present about a month and a half or so ago to council, and obviously the city manager's proposed budget will be coming out at the end of the month with discussions by council for the choices that they want to make in May, and budget adoption is scheduled for June. So with that, I will step down. I think you probably have some speakers, and we'll be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Lester. Clerk, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this item?
Thank you, Chair. We have several members signed up to speak on item 4. Our first speaker is Crystal Gonzalez, followed by Prentice Wilson.
Hi, thank you guys for giving me a moment. My name's Crystal Gonzalez. I'm from the SAC Youth Center. We are one of the many amazing organizations that get funds through the Office of OVP and the GPIT funds. And I just want to give you just a little highlight of just what our organization is able to do with those funds. And so we are located in Del Paso Heights, but we reach all around the city of Sacramento, and we mostly reach those that have been deemed high risk for violence, gangs, homelessness, all the other things that we've been kind of talking about today, behavioral and mental health issues. And we serve about 2,000 plus unique students indirectly every month. That's through our outreach. And we serve about 300 students with direct services monthly. These are unique students. We have programs based on the 8 dimensions of wellness, emotional regulation as prevention. We offer transformational experiences, camp, week of service, workforce development, field trips, et cetera, with these funds. We've also been able to respond at Natomas High School right after the shooting. We were able to respond there. We're already there every day of the week, but we were there even at a higher level to be able to meet needs, provide supports to students. We do prevention long-term and intervention in sports programs like Grant High School, Indercom, Natomas High School, and we also help at-risk students in Del Paso Heights and beyond with emotional support, wellness, and all their physical needs. If those students aren't getting it from us or from other programs, many of them don't have family members to provide that. I believe that we're reducing crime by helping those students to get those things that they need, helping them to see other better ways to meet their needs than to go into gangs or other negative areas. Thank you very much. I hope you continue the funding. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Mr. Wilson, followed by Ebony Hall.
Hello, committee. My name is Prentice Wilson. I'm the Executive Director for Academics for Athletes. I'm really glad that Crystal hit on most of the hot points, so I don't have to rehash those. Budget cuts, we understand. We're making them as well. They're tough for everyone. I'm going to say as a group, as a part of the collaboration, our concern is that we're adjusting and we're making cuts. We're not making programs go away. Chief Lester, Dr. Clavo, they've done an amazing job with us, working with us. The numbers speak for themselves, and we keep coming before you. So my main concern is that when you are going through and when you are making those tough decisions, we all understand, for lack of better terms, we have to cut some fat in some places. But because this was a 3-year project and we've made so many advances that it won't just go away. And 3 years from now, when we're addressing some of these same needs, we're not taking 3 steps forward to make 3 back, and we're starting all over from day one. You guys have done an amazing job with Measure U. Everyone's done their job. The numbers speak for themselves. All I ask that when we're in difficult times, we're making these decisions together and not just making it so easy that we're just the easy way is to eliminate programs. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate all that you do for our kids.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Our next speaker is Ebony Hall, followed by Michelle Gladney.
Good evening. I'm Ebony Hall, single mother of 6, 2 daughters, 4 sons. I would like to start by saying thank you to Brother to Brother and Glow. I'm not here just to speak, I'm here to testify. Because Brother to Brother didn't just impact my community, it saved my family. There was a time when my children were going down the wrong path. Some of them became involved with the system, even incarcerated. As a mother, that's a place no one ever wants to stand in. It's heavy, it's scary, it's lonely, but we weren't left alone. Brother to Brother stepped in. They made sure my sons got to court. They helped with holding them accountable and kept them on track. They connected them with counseling and real healing for everything that they had been through. Brother to Brother didn't just see my children for their mistakes. They saw their potential. My sons gained work experience, opportunities to grow, learn, and believe in themselves again. And they didn't stop with my children. They showed up for me as well. They connected me with mothers that was in similar situations and resources that I needed. My sons needed male guidance or a male figure to talk to. Brother Brother stood in the gap. And when our environment became unsafe, they helped my family relocate from a violent neighborhood to a place where we could breathe again, where we could live again. That's not just support, that's life-changing. Brother to Brother gave my family something we couldn't give ourselves at that moment, and that was hope. They reminded my children that their past didn't define them and that they still have purpose and that they still have a future. And I stand here today to say that this program doesn't just change young men, it restores families, because when one brother rises, it lifts the family. And when families rise, communities change. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Mervyn Brookins. Our next speaker is Michelle Gladney, followed by Mervyn Brookins.
Hello, I am Michelle Gladney, and I'm the founder of Glow Girls Leading Our World. We are a youth organization in the Del Paso Heights area, and we mentor girls to prepare them for life after high school. I would like to thank you guys for all that you guys have done and will continue to do for the, not only the young men, but the young ladies of our community. So basically, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Mervyn Brookins, followed by Edric Brown.
Good evening. My name is Mervyn Brookins. I'm the founder of Brother to Brother. Excuse me, because I was a little emotional after Ms. Hall spoke. You know, yeah, we create relationships and help people change lives. You guys are familiar with the work that intervention and prevention does, and thank you wholeheartedly for your support over the years. When you look at the audience and you see these young men and these young women in the audience, if our funding is cut, if you took a picture of these young men and young women and our funding is cut, and we looked at that picture in a couple of years, it's a damn good chance that several of them won't be there. Those are the people that are impacted by what we do. I know the city is struggling, we're all struggling. Prevention is not the place to look to shave a dollar. When you do that, it's gonna cost lives, real lives. So I'm here to say, one, thank you for the support. I'm asking that you just continue the current funding for the DRIP and prevention, and it's critical. Prevention works with the young men and young women before they get into it. Intervention is just as critical because that's when we're taking the guns out of their hands, and they go hand in hand. And the progress we've made over the past couple of years due to the Office of Violence Prevention's leadership and the chief's brilliant data point plan, and the inroads we've made building relationships with law enforcement, we're in a really good place. But if we take step backwards now, we lose this funding, take a good look, because a lot of those young people won't be here in a couple of years. So again, thank you, and please continue our current status of funding.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Edric Brown, followed by Talia Caraveo.
Hello, my name is Edric Brown. I'm the founder of the Public Bridge. I have not received a single penny for any of this funding, but I must start by saying I apologize to everybody in here. In the year of 2003, I made a terrible decision. I discharged a firearm at a vehicle after a heated dispute that led to me receiving a life sentence. I wound up doing 23 years of incarceration. I got out of a prison because I wrote a curriculum that gained the attention of my victims. I submitted that curriculum to California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation in the year of 2020. It's been running ever since, consecutively granted 3 times. And then I came out of prison because the judge that gave me a life sentence seen that everything I was doing. He came out of his retirement, he authored a letter to the Sacramento court system, and they actually gave me freedom immediately overnight. So I brought these programs out to the community as a preventative service because I know that you have to rewire these children's brains in order for them to demonstrate better behavior. So I got out of prison without any funding, without any help, except for through Impact Paris. I've been able to partner with Folsom State Prison, and I currently take the youth in Sacramento County up to the prison for an educational youth tour. It's not a scare straight, it's just to show the youth that every decision you make, you better take this in consideration because you could wind up in these places. And I say all that to say that funding is important for these opportunities because I talk to these kids right here. Most of them are the same age that I was when I committed the crime, and I did 23 years of prison. I'm reminded by that every time I see my mother. When I left, she was whole, perfect. She can't even say my name. So I think that it is very important to fund these kind of initiatives because you can stop people like me that didn't have the knowledge that I have now to stop being a nuisance to this community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Talia Caraveo, followed by Alfred Kirk.
Thank you. As the Program Director for Victory Outreach South Sacramento, it is with urgency Measure U funding continue for the nonprofit organizations represented here. They've been impacting the lives of countless youth, many youth present here today, youth that are vulnerable to violence. We've created a powerful student impact testimonial video that captures in their own voices the real-life outcomes of our community-based programs that are serving to address prevention and intervention. This video is simply not just as a supplemental, it's essential for your viewing. It provides firsthand accounts from the very youth these programs are designed to serve, demonstrating the tangible impact Measure U funding has had on their lives, their safety, and their futures. At the time when our communities are facing increasing challenges with youth violence, mental health struggles, and instability, many of which the first gentleman shared about with housing, our youth are also going through the same thing. It is critical that decision makers like yourself hear directly from those most affected. I hope that you will take the time to view the video. I wished it would have been able to be shown tonight so that the commission members here could make a fully informed decision grounded with real impact that you have a choice to make for our community. These youth programs are not abstract initiatives. They are actively transforming lives, preventing violence, and creating pathways for hope and stability. Continue funding through Measure U, through our GPIT, through our DRIP programs. It's vital for sustaining the work that we do here. I really want to encourage every person here that is a decision maker to look at the eyes of every single young person here. You can help these young people become successful. Your decision tonight makes that change. So we, as CBOs, we would love to have partnered with that first group.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Our
Thank
next
you.
speaker is Alfred Kirk, followed by Zariah Marshall.
Hey, how you guys doing today? My name is Alfred Kirk, and we're brother to brother. And today we had a gun take from school today. So we need this funding for all these kids right here and all the kids around Sacramento. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Zariah Marshall, followed by Samara Marshall.
Good evening. My name is Zariah Marshall. I am the Violence Prevention Program Manager at Impact SAC. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to the City Commission, OVP, Police Department for investing in our youth, as they are the center of everything we do at Impact SAC. They don't just influence our work, they inform it. For starters, we partner with UC Davis Center of Violence Prevention Research Team to make sure there is methodology behind everything that we do. This year, the youth are included in the research development process, creating the very questions that drive this study. So the data we collect reflects what young people are actually experiencing, not just what adults assume they are. And this is gentle foreshadowing to the key takeaways, by the way. Our process makes sure that your funding becomes evidence-based work, not just another program. The research informs how we design our develop our violence prevention strategies from start to finish. With your help, OVP's help, the police department's help, Impact SAC and UC Davis can continue to develop the tools and guidelines that inform our work. So far, we have gathered that they need safe environments that address emotional well-being, not just physical security. They thrive in cultural sensitive spaces. They need accessible and sustainable mental health support. Young people trust messengers like us who share backgrounds and lived experiences. Social media is where we need to meet them at, and they need transparent systems where adults are accountable for their needs. Programs must center youth as experts and encourage peer-to-peer support. These aren't assumptions, this is what they told us from themselves. I can go on and on about our strategies and about all the work we do and about all the numbers we have, but instead I'm gonna open up the floor for them because their voices are the most powerful. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Samaria Marshall. I'm currently with Impact SAC and a person of youth working with a research group from UC Davis working toward putting ideas toward our next Student Voices event. This is an event where schools bring a selected amount of students and people of power hear them out about their community. My experience working with them has been much more enlightening and super important to me. I had been pushed beyond to think about my community in ways to help other people like me and even very different from me. Being able to be a part of this has truly made my voice feel much more valuable and heard. I feel like the ideas we contributed to this research and event were very useful and impactful. I feel like usually as youth, people see us as people that need more guidance and we need to be taught more. But I have realized that from Impact SAC and this research group that we have been through many experiences, we have much knowledge, and we have many ideas that matter. This made me feel trusted, which led me to be more confident about what I'm doing to help those around me. Thank you.
Kyria Curtis.
Good evening, I'm Kaylee. I'm with Impact SAC, and Impact SAC has shown me what it looks like when adults really show up for young people. They don't just say that they'll support us, they actually listen and check in and follow through. It made me feel valued and like my voice truly matters. Being a part of this program taught me that accountability means being consistent and actually caring, and it inspired me to be that the same way for others. Thank you.
Speaker is James Deans, followed by Zochi Blackburn.
Good morning. I am Amia, currently in Impact SAC. Impact SAC has supported my mental health by giving me a place to talk and people who actually listen when I'm stressed or dealing with things I don't feel alone. Without that support, I probably would have kept everything bottled and felt more overwhelmed. Having check-ins where people ask how you really doing, learning coping skills like breathing, journaling, or talking about things, about being reminded that it's okay for having help, having someone notice when you're not okay, getting support during stressful times like school or personal issues. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Josiah Bonds, and I'm also with Impact SAC. Impact SAC has shown up for my mental health by giving me a safe space where I can actually talk about what I'm going through without feeling judged. They connected me with mentors and people who listen, which helped me less alone and more understood. Being around others who are working on themselves also pushed me to open up more and take my mental health seriously instead of ignoring it. Without that support, I probably would have kept everything bottled up and tried to deal with it on my own. That could have led to more stress, feeling isolated, and making worse decisions because I didn't have guidance or people to lean on. Impact SAC gave me structure, encouragement, and real support when I needed it, and that made a big difference in how I handle things now. Thank you.
Impact SAC gives us the opportunity to make money. They also do pop-ups and other little events for the kids to attend, especially the ones that can't afford it. They'll be there to pay for you. Every single program of the day, every single day of the program, they made sure we were fed. Even for Christmas, they helped us get gifts for our loved ones. And there are not many programs out there that will help us like they do, so we really appreciate them for what they do for us.
Thank you. And what was your name so I can make sure I got the speaker slip for that?
Antonia.
Thank you.
I know we're kind of out of order, but I'm James. I think you called me up last.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So as you can see, this is representation right here. Everybody standing up. It's very hard to talk in front of people, and I'm so proud of you guys for coming up here. I only got 5 minutes, 5 seconds. I was gonna restart, okay. Hello, my name is James Demas. I am a youth mentor and a program manager here at Impact SAC. Impact SAC, we only require you guys to do one thing when you guys come into the program, and that's show up and represent. Now, I know that's 2 things, but just follow me for a second. I'm very bad with numbers, by the way, too. So, by a show of hands, how many people think violence prevention is very important?
Audience two?
Audience two, and council members. By a show of hands, how many people think mental health is very important?
2 hands.
All right. And by a show of hands, how many people think showing up in representation is very important? Okay, easiest activity I have ever had to do. Thank you. Dealing with funding and budgeting is hard. You have to make the hard decision that can potentially stop the youth from getting that talk that may stop a crash out. Or having a safe space where all the kids can come and hang out. So, like I said before, I'm bad with numbers, but when it comes to funding cuts, the one thing that I think of is something that's the least important. And by a show of hands, it shows that everybody has an important in all these categories. We're putting together a 5K. Log Out and Lace Up. Following Log Out and Lace Up is a Voice Against Violence rally. This is to promote mental health, violence prevention, and opioid awareness. June 27th at the state capitol. This is our chance to show up and represent. Peace. Thank you, guys.
A few more speaker slips. Zochi Blackburn.
Hi, my name's Akira. Being a part of Impact Sect has helped me understand and appreciate who I am. Growing up, I always feel like the new girl, and it was hard for me to truly feel like I belonged anywhere. Through this program, I have found a space where I can be myself without feeling judged. Impact Sec has helped me see that my identity and my background is something to be proud of. Being around people and culture has helped me open my eyes and help me learn from others and become more confident in myself. Now I don't feel lost or out of place. I feel like I belong. I see my community in a more positive way. I see strength, diversity, and support, and I know that I have a place in it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Jaden Talbot.
Good evening, members of the Sacramento City Council. My name is Jeannie Elijah Talbot. I'm sitting here today because what you're deciding is not just about a budget. It's about access. It's about safety. It's about whether or not young people in Sacramento have somewhere to go or nowhere at all. Because programs like Impact SAC, the Mutual Assistance Network, Sacramento Youth Center, Boys and Girls Clubs of the Greater Sacramento, Sacramento Area Youth Speaks, and many more are not just programs, they are lifelines. They are the difference between a young person being mentored or being alone. The difference between being guided or being lost in systems that are never built to catch them early. And when funding gets cut, let's be real about what happens. Doors close, mentors disappear, safe spaces vanish. And young people don't just magically find another place to go. They adapt to whatever is available. Sometimes that means the streets. Sometimes that means isolation. Sometimes that means falling through cracks that we as a city could have prevented. So when we call these programs non-essential, what are we really saying? What we're really saying is that prevention is optional. That support is optional. The opportunity is optional. But the consequences are not optional. You will still see them just later, just bigger and just harder to fix. So I'm asking you to think beyond the numbers on the page. Think about the student who stays after school because it's the only place they feel safe. Think about the kid who finds their voice through a youth program instead of losing it in silence. The future of a leader who just needs one opportunity to start. Because right now, you are not just voting on funding, you are deciding what kind of city Sacramento chooses to be. A city that invests in its youth before problems begin, or a city that waits until it's too late. Youth programs are no extra. They are the foundation. And foundations are not the thing you remove if you expect something to stand. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I have Paris Dye.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paris Dye. I am the proud mama of all these babies up in here. Impact SAC. First of all, our shirts, suicide prevention can begin with a what's up. We're really big on connecting young people to the power of their voice. When they walk in a room, we want them to greet each other. It's that simple. If you just say hello to somebody, fist bump James, then everything works out. You know, it can begin some good change. Our Student Voices report, we have 2 years of reports. We make copies for all of you. It is directly from UC Davis's Office of Violence Prevention. We have copies for you. The key takeaways that Zariah spoke of are what we hold ourselves accountable to. We do target students that we do not know. That is our target audience every step of the way. Who don't we know? Young people we don't know. If we've known you for a while, you're great. That means you have to go target someone that we don't know and bring them to the group. So we're standing here today, number one, to thank you for your commitment that you make to young people, that you make to ensure Sacramento's a safer place. We know that it's not always that's not always the case, but you have all made a commitment. You step up and give your time to that. At Impact SAC, we have core values, and that's HEART. It's our HEART value system, and that's what the Office of Violence Prevention funds. HEART stands for Hearing Youth, Empowering Youth, Advocating for Youth, Restoring Youth Hope, and Taking Action with them. That's why the system in the Sacramento Children's stuff, they say nothing about us without us. That's why you won't see us here without our young people. Tonight was optional for most of them. And some of them needed to come because they need their money that they earned through another program that you fund. So thank you very much for having us tonight. Thank you for your effort, and just keep going, you guys. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And do we have Ms. Blackburn? Still have one speaker. Seeing none. Zochi Blackburn. Chair, I have no more speakers on this item.
All right. If you're an adult in the room, and I'm going to say over 30, I want you to give a round of applause to these young people. We can take space. We can take space for that, but I just want to say to the young people, thank you for coming out and sharing your voice and your perspective. Keep looking for spaces and places to elevate, because there are spaces and places that need your voice, but you got to show up. With that being said, and no more public comment slips, we are now turning over to the commissioners, calling Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, just echoing what you just said. Thank you so much for coming out today. If we look a little surprised, it's because we're not used to having anybody else in this room except for our one friend who's here often. And I really want to take a step back and maybe give a quick overview of what Measure U is, because I think there might be a little bit of misconception, and I think it's really important so you have this correct filter and kind of our questions and our discussions going on in the future. So we are an advisory body here to oversee and be a voice for the community on how a certain set of funds called Measure U funds are being spent. That is a 1-cent sales tax. If you spend $1 in Sacramento, 10 cents or 1 cent of that is going to go into the Measure U fund. And that fund then goes into a wider fund called the general fund. And so the general fund kind of is spent on a lot of different things in the city, and there's no specific requirement on how the Measure U funds are supposed to be spent. There is a lot of language around the ballot propositions and around the various things that were passed in the city resolutions on how the community believes that the funds should be sent, but ultimately at the end of the day, it was passed by above 50% of a majority, and so there's no legal requirement on how the funds are spent. But we take our job very seriously here, and our dictates are to represent the community and advocate for what we think is the best use of funds and how people voted for Measure U. And there's been a lot of tension and discussion that we've had as this board figuring out what does that actually mean. And we've done that into a silent room largely. And so it's really helpful for us. We've been really trying to, especially Commissioner Sala and some other members, get community involvement to hear firsthand what it is that the community wants Measure U funds to go to. But at the end of the day, our job is to be an advocate for the community and representing what we think the community wants and needs for the Measure U funds. And so that's kind of what our position is here, and our roles and responsibilities. We're volunteers, just doing our best to look at numbers and spreadsheets and talk to our city staff that come in and spend their Monday nights talking about what they use Measure U funds for. And so I just want to reiterate what our Vice Chair said, and thank you so much for coming out, because it really does help us inform our position on what the community thinks and how this money should be spent. But the hard part of our job is to kind of figure out where is Measure U money actually spent, and is that right with the community? So I do have a question for Chief Lester, if we can. Thank you so much again for taking the time. I noticed going through the numbers on the budget that police budget went up incrementally from $228 million to $246 million to $256 million. But the Measure U funding kind of bounced around, right? It went from $6 million to $11 million to $9 million. So that was like 2.7% to 4.7% to 3.6%. And I wanted to kind of get a sense from your perspective, is that a reflection on what you think the city sees the police department value is, or specifically the police department value towards Measure U? Or do you think this is just kind of accounting of like, we're gonna increase police and kind of, Measure U is just a number and we're gonna then tack that up to make sure that we can fill in the blanks? How do you see Measure U in your budgeting process?
Yeah, and actually you gave a great explanation and dialed what the Measure U committee does, like in a nutshell. That was great, thank you. So, it has changed over the last few years. My first year as chief, they moved a lot of funding actually out of Measure U and transferred it just over to the general fund. And so it looked like there was this large increase, when in fact it was just really a transfer of funding. It was the same dollar amount. Most of what you've seen, because we have seen year-to-year reductions at the police department, like when I started, we were authorized, for example, 769 sworn officers. We now have 733 authorized, and when we did our budget presentations with the proposed recommendations, we are looking, unfortunately, to lose about 40 additional sworn positions and some additional professional staff. I can't speak exactly to how Measure U, how the council decides to attribute what funds to measure, what programs to Measure U versus the general fund. We really do look at it as general fund dollars, and historically, Measure U specifically has gone to support OVP within our department, as well as our pipeline hiring program. So those are the two, really kind of the two buckets, I would say. Last year you saw a reduction, which is why it went down, because we eliminated those 23 vacant CSO2 positions. And then for this year, we also had to make the recommendation, unfortunately, to reduce 7 additional CSO2 vacancies and 5 CSO3 vacancies. Now, of course, that was just a proposal. It's what, we had to do to get to the number that we were required to get to, not obviously where we want to be, and it will be up to mayor and council to decide clearly what they want to continue to fund, what programs they want to fund, and then where that funding is going to come from. But, and I don't know if it's going to change in the upcoming year, and if anything is going to move from those two buckets, our hiring pipeline or OVB. Traditionally, the last few years, that's what it has funded.
Yeah, and that's what I figured. And I know the city council ultimately makes the budget decisions, but your perspective is very helpful. I know we have a lot of questions and a little bit of time, so I'll conclude my questions. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Novello, Commissioner Ruiz-Benitez.
Yeah, my question was also for you, Chief Lester. And then I got a little bit fixated on the whole community service officer. I saw that there was numbers between a community service officer 1 and a community service officer 3. It was like 28, 23, I think roughly 50. Just curious, for Measure U funding, does that cover their salaries? What else does it cover besides their salaries is what I'm curious about.
It sure does, yeah. So there is some service and supplies, and actually this may be where I ask for some finance help. Brenda's nodding because I don't want to give you an incorrect answer. But with everyone we hire, there is some supplies that come with that. There's certain parts of the uniform that we purchase to make sure that they have the right equipment. Everyone's issued a radio. So there is a supply cost to that, and then it does cover their salary. And then, as you know, there's additional, benefits and requirements that are attached to the employee that the employee doesn't realize, but are part of the city compensation package. And Measure U does fund that.
Gotcha. Would it also fund you mentioned some of the supplies, but also more vehicles for these people to ride in? Does it also cover that?
I'll have Brenda come up because we typically do make fleet requests, so I'll have her answer that question.
So my name's Brenda Delgadillo, Police Administrative Manager. So fleet is handled separately. It does come into our general fund, but then it goes into a multi-year operating project that is managed by the City Fleet Department. So that goes to a different pot, and while we have like a replacement list of, you know, of what is going to be replaced in the following year, it is part of the budget process, and City Fleet has a certain program where they get assigned points, and it's based on like mileage, total cost of ownership, age, different things, and they come up and give scores to each vehicle, and then that's how they decide what's replaced, but that money is handled completely in a different separate project and by City Fleet.
Got it. Yeah, that's super helpful. Just, I'm curious back on the supplies piece. I know you mentioned there's like two main buckets where Measure U is spent between, you know, OVP and the pipeline. You know, is there any way that the resources that are spent to, like, for supplies and stuff like that are used outside of OVP and pipeline operations? Because it'd be that these supplies are then also used for, like, you know, general SAC PD operations.
No, they're in two separate funds, even though it's all the general fund. They're tracked in two separate fund numbers. And the stuff that is put into charged against the Measure U fund, it tends to be just for OVP or the hiring pipeline. And the program funds for all of the GPIT and the DRIP program, those are in separate projects as well. So those are called multi-year operating projects. So all of that funding is spent solely on the programs and is tracked separately in two different projects.
Okay, thank you. That was really helpful. Just wanted to know if there's like maybe any indirect spending for that. So thank you for.
Thank you, Brenda.
Commissioner Jarofsky?
Hi, I just want to very quickly make a comment. Thank you all so much for coming out, for all the community organizations for coming out, the work that you do. I'm going to have a question for you, so don't sit down quite yet.
I didn't want to.
No,
I'm going to
it's okay.
stand here so you can talk to me. I felt like
Yeah.
I was right with you.
For all the work that you do, you know, I do this work on a statewide level, working with young people who have been previously incarcerated, and almost all of them say that having access to programs like the ones that you're doing would have prevented them from ending up there in the first place, or is what's preventing them from ending up back there over and over again, or have said that they have friends, if they had had access to those programs, would be alive today, and they're not. And so the work that you do is really meaningful, and it's really important. And I also want to say to all you young people who are sitting there, we have a seat open for youth on the Measure U committee for someone between 16 and 25, I believe, in seat L. So if you're interested, you can apply for that and come join us. So thank you all so much for coming out and doing that work, because I know how busy you are, and to come out on a day like this and do this is really important. And then I just have a very quick question for our police here, and that is, based off of what you said with the hiring pipeline, then I know you said 48 sworn officers in that pipeline since 2019. That number was 40 last year. So that means that in this last year, it was $4.9 million spent to hire 8 people.
No, not at all. Because that 4.9, the money that you're talking about covers programs. We're just talking about individuals within those programs that have been, it wasn't 4.9 to hire the 8 individuals.
Good. Thank you.
No, what we found, just to give some clarity to that, a couple of years ago, we were sitting at an academy graduation. We had lost about 40% of the recruits that had started to the end, because it's a very demanding program. And, you know, no organization can afford to make that much of investment into hiring new employees just to be able to get them through. And so the student trainee program for our college students, and then the community service officer program, which is how I started after being a dispatcher, is a really nice way to sort of step up the skills level so that you can be successful in the academy. So there was a lot of thought that went into these pipeline programs so that we could have police officers or professional staff as well. And so that's really kind of the data behind it.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Cook.
But you mentioned, you were talking about GPIT, and you mentioned several different measures that showed improvements for the participants over, and I'm wondering, you said they've done better on this and better on that. So better than what, I guess is what I'm asking? Is it a point in time in the past that they've improved, or is there a control group? What's your?
Sure, actually, I can bring up Dr. Clava to talk about that and the metrics that we have taken. So we do data reporting. Actually, we have a great partnership with Sutter Health, and Sutter, we use their their Department of Community Outreach, and do all of our reporting. They help us, and they do it for free for the city so that we can give all of our funding to the community-based organizations, but they collect that data and do an annual report. So I'll have Dr. Clavo come up and talk about the results and how we measure them and some changes that we've seen over the last few years.
So I believe the better part, I don't know if I would use the word better, because our numbers and the data goes off of how many incidents we have, how many disruptions we have, how many them stopping retaliations, things of that nature. Better is relative to how many youth they connected with in 2025 versus 2024, how many youth that they've helped raise their GPA scores. They could have been 0.0 students, and now they're 2.0s, they're 1.0s. We celebrate all achievements. Better is the youth coming in and saying, I need this program. Better is the parents, the outreach they do with the parents and the community that are wrapping their arms around them. And now the parents are coming in and they are, becoming part of the support roles of these programs that these youth are involved in. As Chief mentioned, we are partnered with Sutter Health, who LPC Consulting does our data. And so our organizations are required to submit every month on the 15th of every month what their contacts with youth have been. And so they have to state to LPC what those numbers look like. Mid-year, we get a report, and then we get a yearly report on all of the numbers that Chief had up on the PowerPoint, that the 6,000 plus youth contacts. All that information come from our CBOs. The 100, I'm going to misquote the number, 100 and whatever plus 1,000, 147,000 plus, I think, on hours of service. Well, those are all the hours of service that these mentors in this audience are putting into the youth. This isn't even a touch of the youth that these organizations, our 11 organizations, are interacting with on a daily basis, especially those organizations that are in our schools. As some of the organizations that stood up here and spoke to the fact they're in Intercom, they're in Natomas, they're in Grant, and we have organizations that are in Kennedy. We have, so we have organizations that are in many of our schools. That's the data that we're collecting. That is the better, that we are in more schools, we're in more communities, that we're growing our outreach, we're growing our reach, we're being able to contact more kids, more organizations, more community know about the organizations that sit here in this audience and those that are not in this audience tonight, but that's what better is. I hope that answered your question.
Before we move on to the next commission speaker, we will need to take a motion to extend the meeting past 2 hours. The time is 7:27. Is there a motion? I have a motion by Member Sala. Second. A second by Member Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion passes and the meeting will be extended for an hour. Our next commissioner.
So to push on the hiring pipeline math of 4.9 million 4 or 5 people hired. I realize there's a lot of like supporting processes and teams that go into that, but the challenge that is being presented to this commission is that Measure U fund is spending more than it collects. It's going up every year, the deficit's getting larger, you know this. So we're trying to move to this framework that enables us to track outcomes as opposed to actions or tasks. So I think when you do this analysis of, oh, 5 people were hired from a hiring pipeline that was given $5 million, it like objectively, you know, it's tough, right? So where's the rest of the money being spent, in what capacity, if it's not being spent directly on increasing the qualified pipeline, given that like the community support role is also being cut? Like, can you explain that?
Yeah, because I'm not sure where that number is coming from. So the Measure U funding for the pipeline program actually pays for people in those positions. And what we were saying is from the people that are currently in those positions, a small number, well, actually a good number since 2019 had advanced to even higher positions. But that funding is going to pay for salaries. It's paying for student trainees to have some funding for supplies with school. And then it's also paying for, we only have 3 people that actually run all of the GPIT and all of the DRIP programs within our department. And so the majority of that money that you're seeing goes directly towards funding the community-based organizations here. So when we're talking about that money, a lot of it goes to like existing employees. We have CSO2s, CSO3s that are working, student trainees. It goes to pay their salaries. We're just saying one of the outcomes that we're seeing is that the pipeline is successful and that we've seen a number of people advance to other positions, permanent positions within the police department.
I think that's good feedback, because the context is there's a line item, it says hiring pipeline, and then you give the report that says 5 people, then you do the math, and then it doesn't look so good. But I think what you're saying is that the funding, that $5 million actually goes to the CSO roles, et cetera, and that's where the majority of it is. So is it correct to say that Measure U funds that community support officer role in its entirety, or are there other sources of funding?
The CSO2 and the CSO3s that you're seeing on the chart, Measure U funding pays for their salaries and the associated costs, and then also for student trainees as well. And so Measure U funding pays for that. And you don't get to just hire somebody into those roles and put them into a police academy or have them become an analyst. These are developmental roles that sometimes they take a few years in order, like I'm a big proponent of education and really try to push youth that are actually in school to try and complete their degree, at least get an AA or get a bachelor's while they're in this program, because we tend to see more success versus people that stop and start, over the years. So we really do try and support education and support people in those roles, as well as workforce development, which is one of the really intended outcomes. We want to give people a pathway to future public service employment.
I think that's where it gets even more complicated, because you said there was like 46, 48 CSO roles last year, but like it got cut in half to 23, and then now it's going to get cut X number again. I don't understand how like every year Measure U collects more money than the year before. Like it's objectively true, you can see this in like the revenue and expenditures, but the programs Measure U is supposed to fund like goes down every year. So how do we collect more money than the year before, but yet we're funding less CSOs, less programs than the year before? How is that possible?
Well, I don't make those budgetary decisions. That is really a question for mayor and council. So the city manager will present a proposed budget, and that happens at the end of April this year. The mayor and council will then have discussions during the month of May, and then they make those budgetary decisions. The last few years, to kind of, it's been a real challenge for the departments. Every department was required to present a 15% reduction. It was a reduction exercise. List out all of the programs, the people, the services that potentially we would have to cut to reach that 15%. Now, the city council then takes all of those recommendations into consideration and chooses really which programs that they're going to keep, what they're going to fund, and what services the city will provide. How it's allocated to Measure U versus general fund is not a question I can answer.
So the allocation to the hiring pipeline in fiscal year '24, that number is, the hiring pipeline funding category was greater last year than it is this year. And as a result of that, you had to cut the FTEs from 46 to 23. And with the proposed cuts for this year, you're going to have to cut it again from 23 to some other number.
That's correct. And these are vacant positions. So essentially what we're losing are vacant positions, and I will not be able to hire into those categories.
Maybe this is beyond you, so feel free to say this, beyond your scope. But I guess I don't understand how the money is there. You can see the city is collecting revenue in the form of taxes, et cetera. So if the money's not going to these community programs that the voters thought the money was going to go to, then where's it going?
Well, again, that would be a question for mayor and council and where the savings go from those reductions.
Okay.
Commissioner Novello, Commissioner Ruiz-Benitez. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your name on the screen.
Oh, I think it's because you're sitting in the other person's seat, maybe.
Can I talk now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Hi.
Good evening.
I want you all to know that I am a firm believer in interventions. I am here as the result of an intervention called Upward Bound. It was a program that came along in the 60s that brought me out of the inner city and put me on the path of receiving 5 degrees. I have 5 degrees. Thank you. I was told that I would not be the one to do that, but I did it. I went to the University of Cincinnati. That's where I got my degree in life, and my first 4-year degree, and I'm happy to say that 2003, I got my second master's and my PhD from UC Davis. My son is also an alumni from UC Davis. Thank you. I say that to say that being in the inner city and poor can be a state of mind. It does not mean that that's where you belong. I've had the opportunity to work with youth for over 57 years, just like you. And that's what keeps me young, because I've been retired now for 23 years. So next I want to ask the question of recruitment. And my question is, what does diversity look like in your recruiting group that come in? And how are they retained? And what does that look like when they graduate? Does it look like the people in the audience?
Yeah, we've seen some sizable increases in diversity, and we certainly have those numbers. I didn't bring them with me tonight, but we have a great recruiting team. We recruit from colleges. We do a lot of events within our community. One of the things I think we do really well is you get really that personal touch from a recruiter. You know, you're not just a number when you come to the Sacramento Police Department. It's a very complicated process to navigate from, I mean, it's a civil service process from the application, the testing. I was just out on Saturday. We ran the physical agility, and it's a very supportive environment to help people, pass these tests. It's much different than, I mean, honestly, when I started 30 years ago, there were thousands of people that tested for 40 spots in Academy. And so what we've done now is we realize that qualified candidates are out there. They need the support. We work really hard to stay engaged, to work with them, because we want good people from our community within our department. We run things like the Female Fitness Challenge. We just did links to law enforcement. And so we do a lot of recruiting within our community. We also actually just changed the education requirement, because we found that we were one of the last agencies that still required 60 units to qualify for the position of police officer. And our numbers really showed that. You know, we had an academy of only 13 just recently. And it's very hard to sustain your staffing numbers when you're putting 13 people through an academy. You know, twice a year, we might get 30 or so people, but we attrit about 50 to 55 every year. So we weren't really even keeping up with attrition. I can tell you, as the chief, I've been here for 32 years, and I've had a very great career here. I've had a lot of support. You know, we treat our employees well. We really value them. We work on employee development, on wellness. We want this to be a workplace that people want to stay. We know how difficult this job is and how much it wears on folks. You know, we really put a lot towards wellness. We have a wellness program and a wellness coordinator. I push a lot of leadership and education training because I think it can be a very, very robust career and be very, very fulfilling. And we're finding that as we recruit people, they're looking for not just a job, but they want to feel good about what they do and get something, you know, really out of it. The tough thing with diversity is when you're trying to change your numbers, it takes a while. We went through a round of layoffs back in 2010 to 2012, and actually had to lay people off several times. And so when you're laying people off in our profession, it's based on seniority. So it's your youngest people, the newest people into the organization, and we lost a ton of diversity back then. And you know, people need jobs, so they went and they found jobs in other places, and that just slows down your progression as an agency. We're also part of something called the 30 by 30 Challenge, which is a national effort to recruit more women and more diversity into the profession, and gives departments who participate really a toolbox to reach out to the community, get people into the profession, and be successful doing that. So we really try everything. You know, we want qualified people in the department. We also want them to represent the community. And certainly, I mean, I think you can see the diversity just amongst us, you know, and I think that attracts people and candidates. But you're right, you can't, unless you have an organization that supports them, you can get them in the door, but you can't keep them. And so for us, it's really important to keep our people once we get them trained and we've made that investment.
Yeah, again, I guess I had some personal experience with that because I have a neighbor whose father was definitely a problem for us in District 8 for some time. And he wanted to make his career a community service officer. He was unable to get in. And I'm not sure why that was, because he was at community college. We followed him into other areas. And let's say, for example, if he's still interested, is there a cutoff of the age or what?
No, actually, and I'd encourage them, and for anyone who has qualified candidates, I am shameless when it comes to trying to recruit people. I will talk to you anywhere and give you some insight on the department, and that's really what our recruiting division is for. The other thing, I want to make sure that, you know, we're putting people, this is you're making an investment in us as well, so we want to make sure we're the right agency for you, that we're the right fit. I sit on a lot of panels and with a lot of different agencies, and what's important to me is you find the right place to work, because you'll be happier and you'll provide better service to our community if you're in an agency that works for you. And we're all different in a lot of ways. So if you have, and I would extend this to everyone, a candidate, please, I mean, you can go to Jacob or Ash and refer them to us, and we will reach out and follow up with them and talk about opportunities.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, one more thing. You guys need to show up more. I've been sitting here for a year and a half, and this is the most that we've had in the audience, besides the gentleman over there by the window. He's the only one that comes. And being a hands-on educator, I think it's important for our young people to understand when they should get involved. We're at the end of a process right now. This is not we love seeing you, but we would have liked seeing you and hearing from you much earlier in the process. So having a government background, I know I can get a little corny and a little prudish about this, but I think also our young people need to know how government works, and they need to know how to get involved at the early part instead of the late part, because you don't get all the goodies in the late part. You have to get there early, okay? But don't stop coming. I want to see y'all. I want to see you at Food Max and Luther coming down. I want to see y'all around, and I will say something. Thank you.
I will say this to those of you in the audience. You are what's up in Sacramento, so please stay engaged. Definitely. It's your taxpayers' money, it is your family's money, it is your future. So keep coming back, keep speaking up, and stay engaged. Chief, I also want to thank you. I know that you announced your retirement, and the years of experience and the work that you have done in Sacramento has not only been monumental to our growth, but it's something that I deeply appreciate.
Thank you, it's been an honor.
I have two technical questions, and probably one I will hope that you can provide me an answer, and it goes related to the pipeline program. In a first school year basis, how many new sworn officers have been hired?
So we currently have 17 in the academy, and I'm really excited to say we have seen a huge spike in our applications since the beginning of the year. I would expect, looking at the numbers right now, we are likely to hire about 30 or so for the July academy. We just, I was just at the fitness test on Saturday, and we actually had to add an additional day in next week just to facilitate testing, which is a great place because you've got a bigger pool of candidates, and we'll be able to, hopefully fill some academies. Right now we're considerably below our authorized staffing number. Right now we're authorized to have 733. With the folks in the academy, I've got just shy of 650, I'm sorry, but really that's about 620 working officers, and that's down from an all-time high of 804 that we had in 2008. So, trying to hire people and fill those positions is really important, but we have unfortunately not been able to keep up with attrition. We're not unique in that aspect. A lot of major cities are really having a hard time recruiting and retaining people. I do see that we are turning a corner, though, and we are seeing increases in applications, in the success rate, and I really give credit to not only our recruiting division, but the men and women that work here and set an example to show that this is a place that you would want to work.
I want to ask that question again in a fiscal basis. 2024, 2025.
Right.
How many new officers were hired?
Well, we had 13 in the academy and 17 now, so that would be a total of 30 from July of last year when we started the academy.
All right, thank you. On the last part of your presentation, you provided a slide of the different outreach and different things that you guys do as a department. Would it be possible to get a list of a breakdown on the many events per district, as well as the name of the CBOs and the amounts that were granted?
Some of the CBOs serve multiple areas, but we can certainly provide the list of community-based organizations on whether they're GPIT funded or whether they're EVBIDS funded. There's also Measure L, the Children's Fund, and I'm sure like Jackie and her team can speak to that. So yeah, happy to provide that information as far as like kind of what the different CBOs do. And what was the first part of your question?
The breakdown. If there's events, there was a quite number of events. Just want to make sure that I understand from a district per district that there's equal attendance and engagement.
Well, I actually did a big when we did the budget presentation, I believe it was last year, I highlighted every area and showed just the dozens and dozens of events that we regularly attend. This year, we really shortened that budget presentation, but happy to provide that. We're broken into 4 commands: the north, the downtown, east area, and south. And so we really kind of categorize the different events by geographic area, so can certainly do that. But yet we're very active in the community, so thank you.
Want to take a moment? Commissioner Sala.
Thank you. I'll try to be really quick, but I just want to say that my heart was full in hearing all of your stories and seeing the impact of a little over $2 million, which isn't that much, truly, is not that much for the impact it's having in our community and with all of you. And to see firsthand, we make decisions, but to know that that money went to something real and had such a profound impact. And I also want to say that before, and that is to you, Chief Lester, and Dr., what was your,
Nicole Plavo.
Okay. The impact that it has happened when the two of you came together. Because prior to that, it was, you know, hit and miss, and it was only $1 million, and it was year to year. And I was sitting there with the gentleman from Brothers to Brothers, and it was 4 years ago, and he happened to mention, I was sitting back there with you, and he said, what we really need is funding for 3 years, because this one, every year, having to make a decision, is our program going to exist, is it going to go away, makes us less effective.
That's right.
So seeing that decision, that measure you made to recommend that it be funded for 3 years, and seeing the impact it's having on all of you and in our community is heartwarming to me. So thank you, and congratulations on your retirement, and you will be missed.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So I want to say, and what I heard is that you would like, I would love to increase your budget, because I think 2 million spread out through all of the community-based organization, through all of Sacramento, and the impact it's having on the thousands of youth in our community is not enough. But because of the budget situation, unfortunately, that's not, or maybe not possible, but for sure, we should definitely fund you for another 3 years, at least at what you're getting now, and congratulations. And then my last comment is, part of the reason why it brought all of you here is because what was on the agenda mattered to all of you. So we, as Measure U commissioners and the Measure U, we need to do a better job of having things on our agenda that bring you to our meetings and elicit your feedback. And I think that's kind of an onus on us. So I was really happy to see you all, but I understand why you were here. That's all I have to say.
Commissioner Miller-Cook?
I must ask this because I think it's all interconnected with public safety, homeless, youth prevention, et cetera. What is the role of the police department in addressing the homeless population in the city of Sacramento?
Yeah, so we actually were instrumental in helping stand up the incident management team, and Brian spoke really briefly about that. The idea behind the incident management team was to try and bring resources together versus having departments work in silo. And I've seen that work in other cities to where, you know, we've all got limited resources, so we need to work together. So right now, we have about a dozen or so impact officers that work directly with the outreach workers at DCR, as well as like our cleanup crews, and they're out in the field. And so essentially we've got, you know, close to a dozen people assigned under Director Pedro to work on the 311 complaints, to offer services, to do enforcement as needed. And, you know, they're very skilled in working in that environment. So we've been, I think that we stood that up in 2023. And so we've been part of that team since that time.
These are sworn law enforcement officers that work under that team in partnership with DCR?
Yes.
What type, because I'm trying to reconcile everything I'm hearing against like what I see out in public as I walk the city of Sacramento. And I'm trying to understand like what type of actions or behaviors would compel the police department to actually get involved in taking proactive interventions and addressing a homeless camp, individuals that refuse to move from certain areas despite multiple 3-in-1 attempts, individuals that are doing drugs in public, that are passed out in public, et cetera, et cetera. It seems like that, like all of those fall under the umbrella of log a ticket with 3-on-1, and then it goes into the ether. So when does the police department like tactically get involved in addressing those issues?
Sure, there's essentially like 3 ways. So if it's a standing camp, a homeless complaint, a trash issue, people are typically directed to 311. Those calls go into the 311 queue, and they're sent directly to the Department of Community Response, where they're managed between DCR and our team. If you witness a crime in progress, or you see something that an officer needs to respond to right now, depending depending on the severity of it, we recommend that you call the non-emergency line or 911 even. And then certainly the third way would be, you know, we have officers that are on patrol, they're out being proactive, observing behavior, and working to stop crimes that are in progress. So those are the three primary ways.
Okay, that's a good, my last question, I promise. I think what I'm trying to get at is there's some type of quality of life crime that's being committed with an individual who is unhoused, whether it's drug use, they're passed out, they're drinking in public. It seems just very anecdotally like that does not meet the threshold of direct police intervention, and then that in turn impacts the quality of life across many communities. There's more unhoused people in low-income communities than otherwise. It's like, it has a cascading effect. So I guess I still don't understand, at what point does the police department get involved and take action to eliminate that crime from taking place, if it's not a violent crime?
Right. Well, and I mean, I'll be very honest with you, we have limited staffing. And so in a lot of cases, our patrol division, which is the front line of our services, you know, they are dispatched to calls based on severity, based on priority, based on really threat to like where people are potentially getting hurt, and then property and some of the quality of life crimes that you're seeing. And to your point, some of those more, the quality of life crimes are not as high of a priority, and we don't get to those as quickly as we would like to. And that's really, I think, where DCR can come in. I am a big proponent of alternate response, but also this is a product of staffing and reductions from year to year to year to what we can and can't do. And we've had to make some very difficult decisions about what calls we'll dispatch versus which calls are sent to like online reporting, for instance, versus, you know, which ones we'll get to, you know, when we're able to get to them. And the way we prioritize those really is threats to the public, like to, you know, someone getting hurt, and then to active crimes in progress on property. And you're right, some of the lower level crimes, they're more difficult, and based on the amount of time that may have passed since the caller called in or since that crime has been witnessed, people may be referred to online reporting, or the call is not dispatched at that point.
But what you're saying is there's a lack of resources that are preventing you from enforcing the law, as opposed to policy choices where you're deciding not to address a homeless camp in a certain area.
No, I'm not saying that. And what I am saying is that based on the volume of calls, like for example, our comm center took about 608,000 calls last year, and about 160,000 of those were dispatched. 60,000 more were proactive police calls where officers put themselves out on different types of calls. But what I am saying is that certainly when you reduce your staffing, you also have to reduce the types of calls and the volume of calls that you can reasonably respond to. You'll see that over the last few years, we've made a very intentional effort to try and staff patrol as efficiently as we can. So for example, at the end of last year, I eliminated our contract with Regional Transit because that put more officers in the field, because that is a primary responsibility. But I wouldn't say it's a policy decision necessarily. I'm just, you know, saying that based on the size of our city, based on the volume of calls, and based on the number of officers we have, all of those things have to be taken into consideration when we're dispatching calls. Hence the push to really support the incident management team so that we could be efficient, because that was a common complaint that people would call 311 and they wouldn't have a response. And what I know Brian is working towards and our team is working towards is real-time response, so that those calls aren't sitting in the queue for days at a time until someone is able to respond.
But that still doesn't like align with like, you just talk, this is very anecdotally, like the feedback is that the police department can't do anything because their hands are tied. Is that statement true or not true?
I didn't say that. Is that?
I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying that's the general feedback from like the public when interacting with the police department and trying to address the homeless population. Can't do anything, call 311. But I'm trying to reconcile like just like the experience in the public versus what you're saying right now, and whether the police department does have the mechanisms to enforce the law for all members of the population, or is the department proactively choosing to not enforce loitering laws drunk in public, et cetera, for individuals who are unhoused.
No, that's not the case, and actually, it's not the feedback that I've received. You know, laws have changed significantly over the last few years. For us in this environment, there was the Boise decision, which really did prevent enforcement in public places, and then with the Grants Pass decision, that changed, and it does now allow enforcement. But I would say it is a comprehensive approach between providing services and doing enforcement. But there is not, I guess, to answer your question, a mandate that we won't enforce low-level crimes or things that are in progress or things that we see. I would say that there are times that there are other priority calls that have to be addressed first.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, I just had a quick follow-up because I want some clarity on this as well in terms specifically. But even if we were able to, let's say, arrest every misdemeanor out there, it is an issue of capacity for the local jails, right, as well. You wouldn't put someone in prison for, I have never actually heard this term, this life crime, quality of life crime. Can you provide a little, I work in the justice system and I'm an attorney and I've never heard that term before. Can you just add a little clarity from that? And what would be the criminal ramifications of someone that is committing a quality of life crime? And would they, likely end back up on the street anyway if you did enforce this completely?
Well, there are criteria actually for if you make an arrest of someone for a misdemeanor or an infraction, and essentially there's certain criteria that would have to be met in order for that person to be booked into the county jail, for instance. So in most cases, for infraction crimes or for misdemeanor crimes, the officers are issuing a citation to the person with a court date to appear, and they are not booked into the main jail. It's not to say that that can't happen or doesn't happen, but there are certain criteria that need to be met.
They probably have to have a warrant, or there may be history, or maybe the violent, or there's some other maybe drug possession or something like that that would have to elevate it beyond just this citation, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
All right, we're going to take a pause and give our city clerk's office a moment to make a statement. All right, thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 5 on the discussion calendar.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Jackie Beecham. I am the Director of the Youth, Parks, and Community Enrichment Department. I'm joined tonight by a few members of our leadership team. Thank you so much for having us. Before we jump in to an overview of the last fiscal year, I also would like to thank our entire YPC team. They work every day across our city to support the quality of life services that you see in our Parks and Recreation system. Sacramento plays a critical role in the life of our city. YPC, as we call ourselves, is responsible for the daily maintenance of 243 parks, parkways, bike trails, natural areas, and open space that spans across 4,000 acres in our city. YPC also supports healthy and safe communities through our programs and amenities that encourages active recreation, celebrates diversity, and connects people to nature and each other. Our total operating budget for fiscal year 26, our current fiscal year, is $65.9 million, of which $42.2 million is Measure U. In fiscal year 25, our Measure U budget was $44 million. Our citywide operations are delivered by 678 FTE, which equates to 1,437 individual employees. This includes a very diverse workforce of full-time, seasonal, and part-time staff. Our park ranger unit is supported by 15 park safety staff and $2.4 million. That's just 4% of our operating budget. Rangers continue to focus efforts on core services across our 243 parks and facilities that include enhanced public safety and park education, responding to over 9,000 calls for service this last fiscal year, and supporting homelessness response with DCR's rapid response team that included over 1,000 rapid response calls. Our park maintenance division is funded by $24 million, which is 38% of our operating budget, and includes 125 full-time staff. In addition to the daily maintenance of our 243 parks and parkways and trails, this past fiscal year, our park maintenance team processed over 5,600 311 request calls for maintenance-related service in our parks, and also supported over 41,000 volunteer hours to enhance parks across our city, which was a pretty significant increase of 25% from the prior year. YPCE operates 15 community centers citywide with an $11 million budget that is supported by Measure U. Centers provide primarily free programming and access to safe space for over 100,000 visits by youth, teens, adults, and seniors through in-person after-school programs and summer camps, preschool programs, teen events, older adult enrichment programs, technology resources, and wellness rooms. Here we have a list of our annual visits by location from the last fiscal year. Also in community centers, last summer of 2025, over 2,000 youth and teens aged 6 to 17 participated in our summer camp programs at both community centers and parks, serving 600 more participants than the previous summer. Our centers have increased offerings for older adults across the city by providing Meals on Wheels with over 35,000 senior visits, which was almost 2,000 more visitors than the fiscal year 24. YPCE also hosted citywide senior special events at community centers in the North, Central, and South Sacramento, and served almost 30,000 participants in our wellness rooms at community centers. Our department partners with community-based organizations, Sacramento Public Library, Natomas Unified School District, and many others to provide services and programs that complement our current offerings. In the last fiscal year, we waived over $245,000 in fees for community organizations and nonprofits through the council-approved fee waiver and reduction program. And we booked over 1,000 rental permits for various events happening at our facilities. Our aquatics section operates the city's 18 aquatics facilities. That includes the regional North Natomas Aquatics Complex, 12 neighborhood pools, and 4 standalone wading pools, and the newly converted Mama Mark's splash pad at Mama Mark's Park in District 2. Last year, the city hosted over 98,000 visits to recreational swimming, providing a safe place for youth and families to swim and stay cool in a city surrounded by rivers and lakes. It is so critical for us to be able to offer. Our Swim Lesson program served over 2,800 participants in water safety programs that supports drowning prevention. This is a steady increase from 2023 and 2024 summer seasons. Additionally, our aquatics program served the community with over 9,000 lap swim visits, 8,000 water aquasize visits, 300 basic water safety course participants, over 300 swim team participants, and 82 youth in our junior lifeguard program. We collect community feedback through survey data at our facilities and through our program participation, and as you can see, it's overwhelmingly positive in our aquatics program. Equity and access is also important for us, and we are proud to report that over $100,000 in scholarships and reimbursements were given out in aquatics, with over $60,000 of that being through the Youth Program Scholarship Fund. 26% of our aquatics youth program participants had their fees waived by qualifying through our Youth Program Scholarship Fund that is partially funded by Measure U. The aquatics section also contributes to youth workforce development, having certified over 145 lifeguards last year and employed over 180 youth that all live within the city of Sacramento. The Youth Development Administration team facilitated the delivery of funding to approximately 65 community-based organizations for grant-funded youth programs, serving well over 7,000 youth just in this last fiscal year. This team is also supporting the implementation of the Sacramento Children's Fund. YPC's Youth Workforce Development Program unit provided workforce education programs and paid work experiences for over 1,000 youth ages 10 to 18 years old, creating opportunities to gain skills that lead to successful and employable adults. This includes stipend-based programs like our Young Leaders of Tomorrow, Primetime Teen, and our Junior Rec-Aid program. Our Landscape and Learning program and WIOA programs provided employment opportunities to over 275 youth, completing over 43,000 hours of work and earning over $700,000 in wages. Our Older Adult Services unit operates the Hart Senior Center to provide opportunities for health and wellness, social connections, and resources for adults, we say aged 50 and better. Over 10,000 older adults participated in programs last year, including daily meals and weekly food distribution and access to safe space, social services, and referrals. The Older Adult Services team also supported more than 80 families and caregivers through RRR, which is our low-cost licensed adult day program for older adults with dementia at 3 different locations across the city. Programs at both Hart Senior Center, programs at both Hart and RRR saw increased participation with visits at Hart Senior Center nearly doubling since 2023. Our Camp Sacramento up in the foothills had a very busy season with 100% of cabins available cabins initially being reserved after our open enrollment last summer. Camp served over 1,700 campers during our family camp season and over 600 more during our post-season for a combined total of 2,400 campers. Last season saw success by simplifying our online reservation system and increase in our overall accessibility by making all unreserved cabins available to the public on a single predetermined date. As you can see here, this along with the new bonus summer session resulted in a significant increase of new families that had an opportunity to come up and experience camp for the first time. Access Leisure provides accessible programs and opportunities for youth, teens, and adults with disabilities. This includes adaptive sports and social programs, outdoor recreation and camps, and programs for our veterans, delivering 297 programs last year, with participation in recreation programs increasing significantly year over year. In fiscal year 25, YPC also launched the Access Leisure Fun Pass Scholarship that increased access for many of our first-time participants. Our community recreation program includes youth and adult sports, the 28th and B Street Skate Park, and the Sacramento Softball Complex. Last year, more than 1,500 youth participated across the city in co-ed seasonal sports programming, including NFL flag football, junior NBA, and our Junior Giants program. We also added 3 new programs to create more opportunities for active engagement for people of all ages across the city. YPC manages and coordinates the reservation process for more than 225 sports fields throughout Sacramento. We issued over 520 youth sports permits last year and saw consistent growth in youth league participation, providing over 12,000 youth with a safe place to play. We're proud to see a steady use across all of our major field types from baseball, softball, soccer, and many of our multi-use fields. On the special events side, YPC supported a wide range of activities this year. Over 528 park-based events, 200 council events, over 100 block parties, and 138 street closures to support larger citywide special events. Some of the signature events that we supported included Movies in the Park, Pops in the Park, Run to Feed the Hungry, and food truck events that you've seen in many of our parks. Our team plays a really critical role in permitting, logistics coordination, and ensuring safe and successful community events. We've been working diligently to address the deferred maintenance burden in our parks, facilities, and pools that exceeds well over $130 million. This includes safety and accessibility issues such as park restroom replacements, major irrigation improvements, sports court resurfacing projects, and field and playground replacements. Deferred Maintenance projects are funded using a combination of grant funds and reallocation of Measure U funds that remain at the end of each fiscal year. The numbers here displayed reflect the amount of Measure U carryover that we applied to deferred maintenance since fiscal year 21. The majority of deferred maintenance projects addressed over the last fiscal year using Measure U funds included sidewalk repairs at $3.5 million the last couple of years, sports field improvements at $1.6 million, sports court resurfacing, and pool and community center repairs. Some notable projects to include that we used a portion of Measure U funds for grant matching. I mentioned the Mama Marks wading pool conversion, which is a really significant project we're very proud of, and the Renfree Field renovation that's going to be coming online very soon at Del Paso Regional Park. So to recap, I have a very quick 1-minute video to show you. It's hard to capture everything we do in a brief presentation, but a 1-minute video of YPCE in our parks, in our Sacramento community over the last year. Hopefully it plays.
Parks, community enrichment. Together, we empower our youth, strengthen neighborhoods, and provide life-enriching programs for a beautiful, livable community. In 2025, YPCE was more than programs and places. It was a system of parks and recreation powering opportunity across Sacramento. Youth stepped into spaces where confidence could grow. Skills were built for real jobs and real futures. We invested in the next generation because opportunity changes what is possible. Showing up, responding, and maintaining safe spaces that welcome everyone. Community centers became places of connection. Where older adults stayed active, meals reached those who needed them, and young people found a place to belong. This work strengthens neighborhoods, builds economic resilience, reduces risk, and expands access. YPCE plays a critical role in the life of our city through our people, parks, and programs. Diverse, dynamic, together.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Wanted to give you a proper introduction, Jackie Beecham of the Department of Youth, Parks, and Community Enrichment, because I kind of said item 5 and then we had a mass exodus and I didn't get to give you that honor. So thank you for coming before us. Do we have any speaker slips on this item?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we have 2 speakers on this item. Our first speaker is Lambert, followed by Mark Jacobs.
The Millennial Army, which I have with me, they're just incredible. They told me that, because they know I'm very fond of Jackie Beecham for many reasons. One, she thinks outside the box. And we've seen her in Del Paso Heights at different events. We usually don't see people from YPCE. They send somebody else, but we've seen her there. Also, for those of you who aren't aware, Grant Pool has been a very contentious situation. It's very hot in Sacramento. When I was growing up, Grant Pool was the place where the youth swam, and we were really close. And then for some reason, once the district became Twin Rivers, they cut the pool off from the community. Can you imagine you have a top-notch pool in your community and the youth can't go there in the summer? Jackie Beecham was one of the ones that led the charge to make sure that pool was open. It's very hot in Sacramento. I consider that inhumane treatment for young people to not have anywhere to swim. Wherever you live, your children swim in a pool. Also, Mama Marks, you hear about her a lot. I knew her as a teenager. She was a trailblazer. Also, it says deferred maintenance. One of my suggestions is stop putting so much money into quote unquote Wood Lake Park. Why? If you go by Wood Lake Park tomorrow, you will see 2 water fountains, children's apparatus, and a big baseball field. Are you telling me that as a parent, grandparent, children with that combination are not going to want to go to the restroom? So where are they going to go to the restroom? So That's a boondoggle to me.
Thank you for your comments. Our final speaker is Mark Jacobs.
Hello, my name is Mark Jacobs. I am founder and CEO of Youth Explosion, a community engagement nonprofit organization and a proud beneficiary of the fee waiver program. Because of our fee waiver program, we were able to serve over 2 million people over the last 20 years. 25 years anniversary is coming up for our program, and we look forward to making it a wonderful event. We operate out of the Oak Park Community Center. We call that Central Sacramento, our hub. We service communities from all over, as far away from the Bay Area. They come to our Oak Park Community Center to train, to understand how to run a nonprofit, and I teach other nonprofits how to elevate themselves. We are a community engagement nonprofit organization operating as a business incubator and a hub, thanks to the fee waiver and the courtesy of the Oak Park Community Center and the Hagenwood Center as well in North Sacramento. We provide relief through food, household items, toiletries, general office equipment. We help people start businesses. We provide education access. UC Davis Medical Center, the Oak Park Community Center's #1 outreach program is UC Davis Imani Clinic, okay? So they have been our go-to for the last 15 years. I love what you said about UC Davis. We go there once a year and we have a great time and we celebrate what we do in Oak Park together, okay? Community resources, employment services, AOD referrals, personal and social programs. I also work with the County of Sacramento Employment Services Division, which helps me extend my services through the Oak Park Community Center. 1.4 million people, and we move about $37,000 worth of product through the center every month. So I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Chair, I have no more speakers on this item. And I will remind members that the time is now 8:20. The meeting started at 5:35, so the meeting will need to end by 8:35.
Okay, moving to commissioner comments. We see Commissioner Fry-Lucas, and in the interest of time, we do still have one very, very important pending. So I will take Commissioner Fry-Lucas's comment as the only one on the docket.
I'll be very brief, my dear. My question is, how many, about senior programs, do you know the percentage of your senior programs that our North and South Sacramento seniors take advantage of?
Fantastic question. We probably have that data. I don't have it available today, but I would be happy to report back to you.
I guess I'm more concerned about on-site at the Heart Center. I'm not speaking of the meals, I'm speaking of what you have at the Heart Center. The other question I have about parks. I recall a news briefing that talked about Lawrence Park, that the young ladies wanted to practice for baseball or some sport, and the bathrooms were not made available to them. How do you accommodate those summer activities that young people have when they need to have restroom facilities? How do you accommodate those groups?
Sure. So that is something that we are often challenged with in our parks is vandalism or issues with maintenance in our restrooms. So something that we're regularly dealing with. We try to work very closely with those groups to have some sort of accommodation. Again, across all of our city parks, whether it's rotating restrooms that are open, working with groups to get portable restrooms available. It's something that our maintenance team continues to grapple with on a regular basis, but it's one of those strategies that we have to continue to work through.
Okay, thank you.
For the Hart Senior Center, your question was related to the number of participants that are coming to Hart Senior Center?
How accessible is that center to North and South Sacramento seniors?
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Sala.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It was very clear and concise. I appreciate that. So, and just following up with the Heart Center, Senior Center, so there are a lot of senior programs in various communities that like, and I'll just say Stanford Settlement has a senior program, and I know there's many others, senior programs that isn't the Heart Center. So do they get funded? Do they receive a part of the YPC funding for their senior programs?
So the centers that receive funding from YPC are the YPC facilities. So we have a very robust senior program at South Potomac Community Center, several of the community centers that you saw listed here today. Bell Coolidge Senior Center, Bell Coolidge Community Center has a senior program. At all of our senior community centers, we have senior program offerings. And we've actually seen that our senior programs expand extensively since COVID. Majority of our programs used to be centrally focused at Heart Senior Center, but across all of our community centers, our senior program participation has increased significantly over the last several years.
Okay, thank you. And I was really happy. I didn't know that the program that you spoke about, that you stood up and spoke about, that you waive the fee so they can exist. And that's amazing, because I don't know if people know what the Amani Clinic is, but that's a student-run free clinic that the community can access on Saturdays that probably wouldn't have any other opportunity to receive culturally appropriate services in that clinic. And because of your program, they're able to exist. So that's amazing. So thank you. And then my last question is, we're not going to be able to finish everything if we don't extend it for another hour. Is that not possible?
No, Council Rules of Procedure, Chapter 8D6 states that meetings of legislative bodies shall automatically adjourn after 2 hours unless extended by 2/3 vote, which it was at 7:30 for an additional hour. It continues to say, but in no case shall the advisory body meeting exceed 3 hours. So 8:35 would be the 3-hour mark.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Cook.
I don't see a scenario where we can go through like the next department plus the Measure U budget recommendations in the next 10 minutes. It's actually like a disservice for us to jam through that. I mean, we should pivot now while we have 10 minutes and figure out what to do next.
Okay, so you are removing your comment?
I'm saying that if this meeting has to end in 10 minutes, take the public comment now, pivot the Office of Innovation and Economic Development presentation to next time, pivot the Measure U budget recommendation to next time. There's no way this can be done in 10 minutes.
Yeah, we know that part, but we do have the parameter of the calendar, so having to present the budget to council, and the budget goes to council in May. So with that being said, we want commissioner comment. So if you're going to remove your comment, then we can go forward. But in the interest of the other department that sat through the evening, I would like to extend the remaining time because it is what it is at this point, but I don't think it's fair to have the Office of Innovation and Economic Development, be cut. So if you are removing your comment, then we can move forward to the
I don't think it's appropriate to have them do a presentation where we can't provide QA. So I'll withdraw my comment, but I think we should not have another presentation plus a Measure U recommendation in the next 9 minutes.
You're now actively wasting the time that
No, I'm not. I'm trying to address the questions that we need to address, but for some reason, we don't want to.
Well, let us look to the clerk's office for some more guidance in regards to the parameters with the remaining time that we have.
Chair's privilege, you can decide to move to the next item.
At this time, we'll call the Office of Innovation and Economic Development.
Good evening, Denise Malvetti with the Office of Innovation and Economic Development, and we're going to see how quickly we can get through this. We're going to certainly improvise, and I am joined here with a few members of the team that we're going to be here for Q&A as well, but I don't know that we'll get there. So, our office, we encourage job growth and investment in the city by retaining, attracting, and growing businesses. And really at our core, we are charged with inclusively growing Sacramento's economy. To do this work, we are organized in these 6 programmatic teams. There's also an administration team that I am a part of that supports all of these. I was going to take a little time. I have one slide on each of these with the exception of nighttime economy because they are not funded by Measure U. But we'll go through this really quickly. So the community investment team, as the earlier slide mentioned, they really lead our public-private partnerships that result in transformative projects like several of those you see here on the screen. Aggie Square, which opened last year, involved in the infrastructure financing as well as ongoing support as it relates to business attraction, workforce development. You see an image of the rail yards as well as waterfront. Our economic development team is more on the programmatic side or neighborhood scale projects. That includes the launch of the Business Solutions Center last year in partnership with California Capital, where we provide small business technical assistance, which could result in micro grants. This group also administers our economic gardening program, a lot of the ARPA, which is federal remaining COVID funding, especially in districts 2 and 3. This team is administering a lot of that work to support small businesses. We have a workforce development team that the 3 primary buckets of work in 2025 were related to 1,000 Strong, which is a Measure U funded program. There's youth and young adult training, which is supported by an approximately $3 million grant from the state of California to support youth and young adult public sector and nonprofit career pathways. And we support the ECE workforce by way of partnering with Los Rios for an apprenticeship program, but we also provide business development support through Child Action for family child care homes. Housing, as you know, housing is a top priority. It is a huge priority to have a range of housing types from, employees, workforce housing, employees making minimum wage through executive housing. We have a small and mighty housing team of 2 that partners with various other departments as well as outside organizations to grow the housing stock here in Sacramento. The community engagement team, which is a new portion of our team from the 2019-2020 fiscal year when we realized to do inclusive economic development, we needed to find new and better ways to engage our community. Lynette Hall, who's here this evening, leads that team. This slide features some of our key programs, including language access. We hired the city's first language access coordinator last year. We have a community ambassador program that provides culturally appropriate outreach to the community, and a few other programs featured there. Our budget is about $5.7 million of Measure U funding. That supports 30 of our 32 FTEs. We also have funding from the Innovation and Growth Fund, which supports 2 positions as well as a lot of our programs. Here's the breakdown by division. I'll maybe blow through that so I can get to your metrics. Breakdown between supplies and services. Again, it's mostly salaries and benefits to support employees that are carrying out these programs, and supplies and services to help us do that efficiently. This just shows we're a small piece of the general fund pie. Okay, so we measure a lot of things, but I wanted to stay true to the metrics you've requested quarterly. So the first bucket is related to small business. I mentioned earlier, we launched the Business Solutions Center last year. This represents work in 2025. There were 93 businesses assisted. That is closed cases. So we interacted with more businesses, but there could still be ongoing engagement. So in order to accurately count in each report, we decided to define that as closed cases. So that resulted in 511 hours of consulting, 7 fee waivers or micro grants. Another small business program that we launched in 2021 is the Shop 916. It's a gift card program that we have 130 small businesses enrolled in. Last year, there were over 230,000 dollars of gift cards purchased. The city's initial investment of ARPA funding in 2021 has leveraged, I believe, off the top of my head, about 1.3 million since the inception of that program. Grant metrics. So this is grants that our office received in calendar year 2025. This does not include the housing ones. It's a little over 9 million, mostly related to financial empowerment center, workforce development, and some waterfront investments. We distributed 5.2 million in grants. Most of this is remaining federal ARPA funding in Del Paso and Northgate areas. Workforce metrics, so in 2025, we inherited the 1,000 Strong program. It was the last year of 1,000 Strong due to budget reductions in the 25-26 the adopted budget. We supported 81 young people. There's no longer funding for 1,000 Strong, but we have state funding that continues to support youth and young adults, which last year we supported about 264 youth. Housing metrics, you all asked how much, Measure U for the fee reduction. That was $3 million in the 24-25 fiscal year, and also in the 25-26 fiscal year. I think that supported 540 units last year, and we're upwards of 580 this year. There were no grant funds accepted. However, the team aggressively pursues grants and submitted for about 80 million of grants in the 2025 calendar year. Still waiting to hear on a couple large ones for housing developments. Recently heard this month about receiving the allocation of HAP, which is about 16 million. Here are the high-level financial empowerment stats since the program inception in 2020. The numbers in parens are the 2025 metrics. A lot of work ahead to continue supporting Sacramento's businesses and residents in an inclusive way, and I know we probably don't have much time, so I am here for questions if there's even a second to go.
You hit it right at the second. The time is now 8:35 per Council Rules of Procedure, Chapter 8D6. The meeting may not go past 3 hours, and as such, the meeting is adjourned.